Yep.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order. The Newman City Council Redevelopment Agency regular meeting of January 12, 2010. Please stand for the pledge. Ready to begin? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would everyone please bow their head? Dear God, thank you for bringing us all here tonight. We ask that you give this council the wisdom to do the right things for this city of Newman. In this we pray, amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Nice to see a nice big crowd here tonight, and like pay special attention to Troop 80. Boy Scouts are with us this evening. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the meeting. We'll move on to roll call, please.
Councilmember Kelly. Present. Davis. Present. Candia.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martina.
Present.
Mayor Caton.
Present. Move on to item 6, ceremonial matters. A, presentation of the West Side Healthcare Task Force calendar by Supervisor DeMartini. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Caton, council members. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I don't have room for that. So on behalf of the West Side Healthcare Task Force, I wanted to thank you for your participation in it. And tonight I'm here to present the calendar which we have, which you have donated about $250 towards. But you know, for the benefit of our audience, I would like to just tell you what the Healthcare Task Force is. I know your council members are well aware of it. The task force started in 2007 to try and come up with solutions to improving medical care on the West Side. There was a lack of doctors, office hours, a lack of specialists. And this is an area where 20 years ago had 2 hospitals. We had one here in the West Side Hospital and then the Del Puerto Hospital. 25 years later, the population has doubled. It's went from about 20,000 to about 45,000 now. We have less in the way of health facilities than we did then. Nothing open at night. And we needed to try and address this and to see what could be done to improve the health services in this area. There was a variety of things that could be done, but first we had to put together a team of people that were willing to put in some time and try and come up with some solutions and realistic solutions and see what could be done. So we formed the group with 2 council members of Patterson, 2 of Newman, and 2 of Gustine. And the representatives from Del Puerto and West Side Healthcare District, the city of Merced. Later we got support from Keystone Industrial Park, from Doctors Hospital, from Emmanuel's Hospital, and from Sutter Gould and Golden Valley Healthcare. So this was really quite an impressive group to put together, and this type of group had never been put in the same room together. Some of them were competitors of each other, and it took us about 6 months to work through that. But it turned out to be a good working group, and that we were working on solutions to improve healthcare in whatever way we could do it. Whether it was for getting grants for telemedicine, trying to come up with a way to extend hours for clinics, and we hope that eventually, you know, that a hospital might be possible again on the West Side. Well, we did a lot of statistical analysis and demographics of the area. We found that around in this area, Gustine, it's about 35 minutes under ideal conditions just to get to the hospital. And if you have an emergency, that's a long time. But even if it's something that's not life-threatening, it's a long ways to go to a doctor. So we're kind of dedicated to try and get the clinic open at night or extended hours, specialists, whatever we think that might be possible to do. So realistic things is what we have to do. You know, we like to build a hospital. We'd like to bring in specialists, and we work towards those ends. But in realistic goals of what's achievable now, we put together a group of the cities through a strategic plan, and we did the Biggest Loser contest. And this was just to call awareness to healthier lifestyle choices, to lose weight, get some exercise, quit smoking, these sorts of things. So we had a weigh-in one day. In fact, our kickoff summit was right here in Newman at the West Side Theater this summer. And we took 10 people from Newman, 10 from Gustine, and 10 from Patterson. Had an official weigh-in, had the Ag Commissioner come out and certify the weight. And we went about 5 or 6 weeks and weighed out in Patterson. And Gustine turned out to be the winner this year, though Ted Kelly really tried to get them to eat some pizza or cake or something. But, it was close. Newman came in second. But it did bring awareness to the healthy lifestyle choices and things that you could do to keep yourself out of that emergency room or out of that ambulance there by doing a few simple things like that, like exercise, eating right, not smoking, that might lower your cholesterol or your blood pressure or whatever. So that was a very successful program, and then we decided that we would try and include the education school districts into this campaign also. So besides the group of local governments and business, which is like Keystone Business Park, then we had education too. And so I'm here tonight as we present a framed calendar for healthy choices. And I'll just hold it up here temporarily. We hope that you will hang this up here at City Hall somewhere. Around the edges there are drawings one for each month from the students of all 3 school districts, from Patterson, Newman, and Gustine school districts. In fact, last night I was at the Patterson School Board presenting the certificates of awards that was donated by Mattis newspapers. Each kid that participated in it that won either first, second, or third place got a $50 debit card. I used to get a gift certificate when I was my age. Now they use debit cards. So, I guess that things change. But anyway, we also had an essay contest too. I didn't bring those with me, but the older kids did essay contests on healthier lifestyles. So it was a very successful campaign, and I really thank everybody who's worked together on the healthcare task force, whether it be business groups, education, or municipalities, or professional people like Doctors Hospital or Emmanuel. So I will present this here to you. You can figure out where to put it up. I just want to call attention too to our grand prize winner up at the very top. If you can see it a little bit closer later, we have fresh the fruits and vegetables. We have an apple and a banana and some grapes. And it says, which way will you choose? You have the fresh fruits over here. Over here is the Big Mac and the French fries. So I thought that was actually the best one. That was our grand prize winner. Telling it that you have the ability yourself to have healthier lifestyle choices. So a lot of it's up to you.
Councilman Kelly, would you accept that on behalf of the council, please?
Yes, Ted is one of the members of the task force. So.
Thank you very much. We'll hang this. Where will we hang it?
Put it in the lobby for all to see.
You got it.
Yeah, we thank you for that because the city of Newman did contribute towards this donation. So we could get these printed up, and we printed thousands of them, and the school districts have them. And we will do it again next year. It was a very successful program. And even in these tough budget times, everybody did come through with a little bit of a donation to get this accomplished.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, we'll move on to item 7, the items from the public, non-agenda items. Any member of the public have a comment they wish to make? Move on to item 8, it's the consent calendar. Item A is to waive all readings of ordinances and resolutions except by title. Item B is approval of the warrants. Item C is approval of the minutes of the December 8, 2009 regular meeting. D is adopt resolution number 2010, next to number, rejecting the claim of Nancy L. Gonzalez.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as is.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9 is public hearings. We don't have any public hearings this evening, so we'll go to item 10, which is, item A is going to be adopt resolution number 2010, next in number, a resolution receiving and accepting the general purpose financial statements and Newman Redevelopment Agency audit for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2009.
Well, it's that time of year again. Seemed like it was not too long ago. Mayor, council members. My name is Robert Kale. Was the lead auditor for the citywide and redevelopment financial audit this year and last year. And we'll go over the redevelopment first. Everybody should have their books. They were sent out quite a while ago. During these financial times, we have a few other clients that we look at and everything else. The city's doing pretty good. I know they've cut back expenses, looking at things, there was a few layoffs, but every city is doing this, every city. And you're more ahead of the ball game than some of the other cities, because we get information on some of the problems that a lot of cities are having. They waited till a little bit longer to do some of the cuts, and now they're doing a lot more deeper cuts. So on the redevelopment, which was should be the smaller one of the two. At the beginning, the first beginning on the page 1 is the independent auditor's report. You have an unqualified, which is the highest we can give. It goes unqualified, qualified, disclaimer, adverse. So it goes down the line, and you receive the highest for the same as last year. The next section in there is the Mdna, which is written by the city. Okay, it is not audited, but we do check over to make sure the numbers tie to the financials. So that is a breakdown of what the city thinks is important for the number game. Put out the numbers, and it's easier to read than all the financials. Then we go into our balance sheet. It's a statement of net assets. Now you have two funds in RDA. You have the housing and the general fund. On the first page of these net assets, it's tied together, and there's comparative to the prior year. Cash is down a little bit this year. A little bit more liabilities. Your fixed assets basically stayed the same, roughly stayed the same, and we go on down. Overall, your total net assets is $920,809. You have a total assets in here of $3,826,705. That's your fixed assets, cash, and loans receivable. The loans the RDA has put out. Page 8 and 9 is basically your statement of activity, and this is where the funds went. Your expenses are in here, and then over here, the money that was brought in to pay for it. There was a change in net assets this year that dropped $61,000. But you did have some construction in there and some transfers to pay for some of the construction. Then we move into the standard balance sheets. Page 10, you'll see the standard balance sheets for the redevelopment, the general fund, and the housing fund separated. Housing fund, you have more cash in it. It's more restricted on what they can do with it. Restricted by the state of California. Than the general fund. And the general fund is more the operation of everything, of the RDA. Your loans receivable, you had about a $30,000 increase, $40,000 increase where you gave out loans. Then we have basically your reconciliation that ties between GASB 34 and the real life together. You bring the two together. GASB 34 is required by the federal government to put it in this format to make it easier. Sometimes it's not easier to read, but the government, I hate to say it, the federal government thinks it is. And everything is always changing. Since we have GASB 34, and that's about 6 years ago, we now up to GASB 47. Some of them don't affect the cities. It'll affect a bigger city where they're doing pension plans and all this other stuff. However, we have to watch each one. We check with the city, and when we do our audit, do they need this portion? No, then we don't have to do it. But each one has to be checked every year. Then you have, on page 12, you have your expenses. It's basically your P&L for each one, and it's broken down. You have a reconciliation for your expenses. And then on page 14 and 15 is basically the budget versus the actual expenses. What they budgeted, the original budget, and the final budget. Because through the year, you will usually do a modified budget changes. If the state says they're going to give you $200,000, and then they say, oh, we're only going to give you $50,000, there's going to be a budget amendment by the city. And basically what happens is you're not going to get the money. So you have to either pull back on some of your expenses. You were going to use that money for, say, sidewalk infill, or sidewalks, or redevelopment, or this. All this stuff, then you have to basically redo your budget, which is a problem at times. And you'll find out that through the year, they will keep on doing these budget changes because it depends upon how much taxes you're getting in or whatever. State funding, federal funding. And then in the back, we do have the notes to the financials, and basically what they do is they kind of highlight the use of like estimates and capital assets, how they consider them. Is it a capital asset if it's only going to be 1 year? Not really a capital asset on most things, unless you're buying some kind of a large piece of equipment. The useful life of it and how they depreciate it. There's a breakdown on the cash. Basically, that your cash for overall, there's $1,110,000. Of that, a bunch of it's in LAIF, which is a state-run pool, investment pool, and then whatever your restricted cash. Usually, restricted cash is if you have some kind of U.S. ag loan or FDA loan or any of these loans, there's a requirement on the books that you have to have so much restricted. It's like so many payments. So you have this big loan out here, they're restricted, that so much cash has to be in a restricted account and it has to stay there. It can draw interest. Some of them aren't even allowed to draw interest. It's kind of weird. It's the state and federal laws. It depends upon who's requiring. Some states, like California, has restrictions on certain ones, and they're different than the federal. And it depends upon the department who's giving you the loan. And then there's a list of the loans that you have, loans receivable that you gave out, like Westside Village. And there's an explanation on the payoffs and how they're doing. Then you have your capital assets, your increases and decreases. And then in the back, you have your long-term loan, your terms, the interest and principal payments throughout the years, for so many years, and then the totals down below. Any question on the redevelopment?
Questions, Bob?
No question. The one thing in the back, we do have a compliance report that we're required because it is considered what they call a yellow book, which is a federal audit. So we do a yellow book audit. It is not a single audit. A single audit if you got more than $500,000 in federal funds, you have to do a single audit, which is special compliance and internal controls. This one here, we do a compliance and internal controls because it is a yellow book audit. There is federal funds that are mingled in. Okay? That's the redevelopment. Now your citywide, City of Newman, which the redevelopment is part of the citywide. There's a requirement to do a redevelopment separately, audit, and have separated financials for it. But the redevelopment is part of the city. The board is the same. They have total control of it. So it is part of the city. So it's a blended audit of financials. So the RDA is in the citywide financials. So it's all combined. This year, you do have an unqualified again. We didn't see any major problems. Few journal entries, but that is every audit. Got booked in the one line down. So it's a very good audit. You have your management Mdna, which is your citywide analysis of what's happening. And it's usually about 12 pages. And that's at the beginning. On page 14, this is the overall city statement of net assets. And you have primary government. You have the general governmental, and you have the proprietary. Proprietary is your water, sewer. Proprietary is a business type organization. Okay? They're supposed to make enough money to cover itself. The government is taxes and all that. Governmental is also, you have your general fund. You have a fund for loans. You have a fund for the K-9 that was started because there was donations giving a special revenue fund. So basically, in governmentals, you have special revenue, which is if money came in for a specific thing. And you have capital projects. You're building the roads out here, big overlay or whatever. Those all come into fact, and then they're all totaled together on here. There is overall governmental assets of $27,216,000. The business type activities, your water sewer, is $12,769,000. That also includes all your fixed assets in there. So the sewer plant out here, your water lines, your sewer lines, streets, everything is in that. Overall, your liabilities in the general fund is $5,150,000. That's payables, that's, say, like the payroll that was accrued for the end of the year. That's your long-term loans, your sewer loans, your water loans, general development, RDA loans, all those that are in there that you took out money, bonds, those are all your. There's $2,859,000 in the proprietary funds, which are your loans. In overall total net assets, you have $22,066,000 in the governmental funds and $9,910,000 in proprietary. It's a slight increase overall from last year, about $1.5 million increase. You buy fixed assets and increase it and stuff. Okay. On the 15 and 16, what this is this is the statement of activities. This is where all your expenses are going. Public safety, public works, general government, community development, culture and leisure, and interest on the long-term debt. And then where the fees, and then you have your revenues. So your revenues are, like fees and charges for services, grants that come in, operational grants, capital construction grants. And then down below, you have your property taxes. All the revenues, sales tax, motor vehicle tax, franchise tax, all the other taxes, your investments, your interest, received income. And it comes on total on down. Actually, overall, net assets increased by 805,000 this year for the general governmental. And for proprietary was 750,000. Then it breaks it down on the next pages. You have basically all your assets, and these are your balance sheets for your what we call major programs, and then non-major, your other funds. Major programs, there's a formula, and it's required by GASB. It has to be, if it's so much, 10% of the overall assets belong there, or you have high liabilities in there and all this. There's a big formula, we put it in, and it'll tell us what is the major programs, your major accounts. And of that, the city can request that we put something in there as a major revenue, even if it doesn't fit, to show it, to bring it better to attention. Okay? And your major programs are, you have your general fund is always in there, your CDBG loan program is a major fund, your public facility improvements fund, redevelopment is a major fund, and your storm drain. And then all the other funds are done together. Proprietary is separate because it is a business activity, it's not a governmental fund. And we do a reconciliation with all the assets, net of depreciation on the next page to tie everything together. And then on page 20 and 21 is basically your P&L, profit loss statements for each of the major funds and then the other funds total. And as you slowly move, you'll see that each major fund has to have a budget comparison to the actual expenses. And then there is a column for what it was last year.
Now, if you notice on the, actually going back to page 16, notice the real hits that we took under the sales tax and motor vehicle tax. Were pretty large hits to the city.
Well, if you look at your sales tax, it was almost, 200,000.
Exactly.
And, the state is still looking at rating the redevelopment funds.
Stealing.
Yeah. I was being nice. I was saying rating. Give you an IOU.
I don't think they're even doing that, are they?
No, they're not doing that. They give you an IOU that a lot of banks wouldn't accept, financial institutions. We had clients that just their tax refunds and stuff, their IOUs, but none of the banks would accept them. So, and your investments, yes, you do have less cash this year. However, the interest rates were so low, investments took a beating in everyone. Every city, every district that we have, they took a beating. On page 29, you have your proprietary funds, your water sewer funds. When we talk about the sewer fund, there is a group of, there's like a capital projects, we add them all together, they're all together. So there might be 5 funds or 5 accounts, and we put them into, because they're all sewer fund. They're all tied together. Water is the same way. I think there's like 3 water funds, capital and expense and stuff. those are your balance sheets there. On the fixed assets for like the governmental funds, they're separated. They're not belonging to any group type. So you have what they call a general fixed assets. Proprietary funds, your water, sewer, they are tied straight to the operation. So the sewer lines are in there, everything, they're tied to that, and they're handled different than governmental funds. For the longest time, before Gatsby 34 came out, under governmental funds, they weren't really depreciated. And a lot of people really didn't know. What they did was they decided, Gatsby 34 came out and said, you own the roads. You have to fix them. You own the curbs. You own this. Nobody had them on their books. So it was about 5 years ago, I think about 3 years ago, it became mandatory for everybody. They had to bring all these assets in. Because you are depreciating them now, but if they break, you got to repair them. So people were like, wow. And it turned out there was a lot of, how would you say, assets that city had that didn't even know they had. City goes, oh, we got 5 million. That city had, 30 million. Once they got them, started looking at them. How many vehicles did they have in public works? How many of this? So all that went in, and they had to do, actually there was firms that came out that the only thing they did was all the fixed assets and valued them. So now they're all on the books. And then you have on 31 and 32, you have what they call the cash flow statement. There are expenses that are non-cash. Depreciation is a non-cash. You buy a car, it's depreciated over 5 years. The useful life of the vehicle, or a building, or whatever. So the depreciation on the cash flow is added back in because it is an expense, but it's telling you the value of that asset. It's not really taking cash out of the thing, out of your system. Then we have the notes. There's quite a few notes. They're basically the same type of notes that we have in the RDA. They talk about how they depreciate items, use of estimates, budget, deficits, restricted assets, prepaid, when the city gets their taxes from the state, and receivables, how the cash is, the storm drain, it's like deficit and fund equity. The storm drain is in the hole. The reason is they're paying back because they got, what was that out there, Mike, that,
we have some major infrastructure for storm drainage, Sherman Parkway, big channel. There's a liability we owe the developer. We need to reimburse them for that. So
yeah,
that's a 7-year
that's
reimbursement.
over the years, because they went out and they paid quite a bit to redo that whole channel and everything else. So the city's portion, and the city is paying it back. Like I said, cash, you have $19 million in cash. 19 million, almost 500,000 in cash. But some of it is, you have restricted cash, you have a bunch that is of that 15.5 million roughly is in a pool, the lake pool, drawing better interest. What happens is, like the state, what they do is they have the more money you can have, better interest rates you can get. So it's called a pool investment. And then all the custodial risk, the investment risk, Gatsby 34 came out, and you have to have all this. Compensation plan, accounts receivables broken down, loans receivable, and you will see the same information that's in the RDA separated in here. Fixed assets, your capital assets, you have governmental and the proprietary, the business, and the depreciation is broke down by like your general fund, general government, public safety, public works, and it's broken down in that. And then on the other side, you have the water and sewer separated because it is a business activity. In the back, you'll have all your loans, certificates, participation, long-term debt. You bought a fire truck, those payments are in there, and you see it broken down. Business type activities, your water revenue bonds, and just basically a breakdown on all your debt for single payments for the next 5 years and then blocks of 5 years. You guys, most of the cities belong to a risk management group, and this is their financials that we have in here. They get audited too, so it's basically we look at their audits and we put that information in there. It used to be very, very city specific, but they don't do that anymore. It's overall. And then you have your employee retirement system in the back, and it shows the expense and stuff. Supplemental information in the back, we have, like I said, the governmental funds, we have the major funds, and then we have the what's called the other funds. All the other funds are in the back here, each account. COPS grant, K-9 fund, gas tax, state grants, park facilities, asset forfeiture. You have the balance sheets, and then you have behind it the revenue and expenses. Some only get asset forfeiture. You had $18 worth of interest in it. It has an amount of cash in it, but not a lot of activity from the state. State a lot of times used to do that. Compliance report and internal control. You have an unqualified, there was no compliance issue or internal control for the governmental funds. You were not a single audit this year. Like I said, single audit, you gotta have over $500,000 of federal funds. You did not receive that as a grant this year. And that is year by year. So next year, you might get $1 million in a grant, you'll be a single audit. So each year we check on the grants and the amount, and then we do it. Question?
Any questions of Robert? Comments? Robert, thank you so much. As usual, it's a well-prepared document and easy to read and follow, so appreciate the hard work.
I did give Bruce Budman a copy of this for he asked for it. I got it on a PDF file for him. So he's probably trying to get it to the net he was talking about, internet. So that'll be in the future. Things to look for, the only thing I can say is you guys are in good shape. Things to watch is just, you have to watch the state.
Oh, we're watching them.
And like I said, budget reevaluation, loans, CDB loans. We're finding some cities, and not just the cities we audit, but other cities, bad debt. Somebody moves, and it turns out. So that's something to always continue to watch on. What's happening on those. And they say it's going to get better. So. Bluebird of happiness.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, with that, if you have no questions or comment, I'll ask for council direction, please, on item A.
Make a motion that we accept adopt resolution receiving and accepting the general purpose financial statements and the Newman redevelopment agency audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2009.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Just for the purposes of your agenda, we're going to move item E, appointment of the new commissioner to fill the vacancy of the Planning Commission, up to item B. If everybody's okay with that? All righty. So we'll go to item 10B, which is going to be appointment of new commissioner to fill vacancy of the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. Originally, if you look at your paper, we had 5 applicants. Unfortunately, one of the applicants has slipped past us. Was ineligible due to living outside city limits. You must be a resident of this community. So that person was no longer eligible. And I don't see Mr. Vandervoort here today. So it looks like we may, with the exception of Mr. Vandervoort, you can still consider him, but I don't think he's here today. I know, I believe Ms. Sloan's here, Mr. Andrews is here, and I believe Ms. Bass is here. So with that, we provided you some sample questions. In the past, typically everybody except for Ted has usually asked 1 question. Ted usually takes 2 or 3. But in the meantime, if you'd like, we could, depending on how you want to do it, we would ask 2 applicants to leave the room, and Ms. Ocasio will accompany them out into the police department. 1 interviewer will be here. That way they don't get the privilege of hearing the questions ahead of time. So you can select who
So
you like.
is it council's desire then to go ahead and we'll interview the 3, and then we'll scratch Mr. Vandervoort from the list, since he's not here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, with that, we will scratch Mr. Vandervoort and the other candidate. And I guess we can leave it up to 3 of you. Who wants to go first? You want us to draw straws? Somebody like to go first?
I'll go first. Get it out the way.
There we go.
Now we have a tie. Okay, Ms. Sloan, if you'd like to be first, then we'll ask the other 2 candidates to accompany Stephanie out to the back 40 somewhere. And then council members, as you review the questions in front of you, if there's one particular one you'd like to select, let me know and we'll appoint that question to you.
I'll take numbers 2.
Ted will take number 2.
I'll take number 1.
Roberta take number 1.
I'll take number 4.
Bob take number 4.
I'll take number 5.
Nick? No, Ted, you don't get any more.
Good.
Actually, we have 3 left.
Let's see how it flows.
We threw out. We just try to get
Yeah.
an option
Okay.
for you guys. We didn't want to just limit it to 5. There were more. So you can,
Okay, well, for the purposes of that, then I will take, I'll just take number 3, what the heck. And we'll leave 6 and 7 up in the air. Okay. Fire away, Roberta.
What is your reason and motivation for seeking the appointment to the planning commission?
I just moved back to Newman after 35 years being away, and I love the community. I'm very proud of what's been done in the years I was gone, and have been active in the West Side Theater and several clubs. And I saw the opening come up, and I thought it might be something that I could make a contribution.
What should the relationship be between the commission and the council?
Not contentious, I hope. Well, as I understand it, it's the commission. The commission
Well,
makes
could you step closer to
recommendations.
the- I'm sorry.
Oh,
could you
the
step
commission
closer? Thank
is
you.
to make recommendations to the council, is what I understand.
I apologize. Yeah, if you would repeat that, please, I'm sorry.
Well, I think it's that the commission is to make recommendations to the council.
Lauren, what is your vision of the city, for the city? For instance, what would you like to see the city look like in the next 10 to 20 years?
That's a long time. Let me think. Well, of course, I'm very proud of the downtown areas, the older residential parts of town. I have not seen the general plan. I tried to download it, from the city website, but it didn't come down. But personally, I would just like to see it continue to grow and prosper and keep that balance of growth with the, heritage that we have here.
Okay.
What do you think the most pressing planning concern is for the city?
I have no idea.
Fair enough.
And tell me, What do you like most about Newman, and what do you like least about Newman?
Well, probably the West Side Theater. I think it's just a gem, and I love volunteering time for that. What do I like the least? I think 33, I mean, just in appearance, 33 on the right-hand side by DeMary. You know, I just love to see bushes planted there or something. This side is so beautiful and the other is not very attractive. So I don't have any serious concerns about things that I really, really dislike.
That's fair.
Okay, would anybody like to follow up on any one of the other two remaining questions?
I'd like to ask number
Okay.
7.
Go ahead.
Tell me, what should the city's position on growth be, for both residential and commercial?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
What should the city's position on growth be, both residential and commercial?
Balanced growth. Got to be able to continue to grow, to help with revenues, and hopefully do it in a very logical, attractive way. But I'm all for business and for residential.
Thank you.
Question, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
What would you do to bring in more business downtown, especially for the theater, things like that? What would you recommend?
I've met so many people just in the last couple weeks, and again, mostly through the theater, that had no idea where Newman was or what it looked like. And just this last Saturday night, 3 couples had come from Modesto, from Merced. They said they have no idea. So a lot of it, I think, is word of mouth. I have friends that have told friends, and they actually come here. Of course, bottom line is jobs, and I spent most of my professional career in sales and marketing for dairy and food industry associations, and you know, the more food processors we can have, the better. It amazes me that we live, and within 20 miles of us, we grow like 7 of the most powerful superfoods that most nutritionalists recommend. And it just seems like a lot of more opportunity for that, for processing.
Any other questions? Thank you, Lorna.
Thank you.
Garner. No, she's gonna sit inside. Miss Sloan, you can sit.
Yeah, she's already heard him, so. Bob's back.
That's a good thing about it.
Hello, Bob. Welcome back.
Test.
Are you turned on? Is Roberta's working, Bob?
Doesn't appear to be.
No, yours is working.
I'm working. The whole left side is out.
This one's
Not working. I'll talk louder.
Is it redevelopment funds or what?
Okay.
We don't even have money for batteries.
Okay. Well, we'll speak louder, Bob.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Who's coming in? Oh, okay. Miss Bass.
Hello.
Just relax. You'll be just fine. Okay, Roberta.
Welcome.
Thank you.
What is your reason and motivation for seeking appointment to the planning commission?
Would you repeat it?
What is your reason and motivation for seeking appointment to the planning commission?
Oh, first word that pops into my mind is purpose. I'd like to find a stronger purpose here in Newman, and being a part of the community and a part of volunteering and a part of sitting in a committee that was working with planning would give me a stronger sense of purpose. I mean, I have a purpose because I live here and I sometimes volunteer, tutor, and do things like that, but I feel like I want a more grounded purpose. The next thing is it would give me a chance to work with people, and I like working with people, sense of responsibility and commitment, and hopefully a chance to make a difference.
Have you lived here a long time?
I wish I could say yes, but I can say only 2.5 years. So that's not as long as I wish I could say now that I've been here.
Not a problem.
There's people who've been here 35 years that they don't consider being here a long time. What should the relationship be between the commission and the council?
Wow, that's over my head. The commission and the council. Well, not being very aware of the hierarchy, my gut feel says that the commission should look up to the council, and the council should be the force that pretty much oversees and guides, I guess, and the commission provides them with the input that the council needs.
Thank you. I'm just writing some notes down here. Okay, Ms. Bass, what is your vision of the city? For instance, what would you like the city to look like in the next 10 to 20 years?
Oh, I'd like the people to stay the same.
Not age any, you mean?
That too. I'll take that for sure. The one thing that I would like to see change most would probably be things that have to do with adolescents and teens. The work that I've done in the community has primarily been in tutoring, and I don't see the young people that I work with having a grounded sense of direction as much as, I guess as an older person, I wish I'd see. And I would love probably to feel that maybe there was something that I could do or guide or say that would provide resources or a spot for teens where they could get more vision, a more place to be and to be heard. So I guess maybe the teen direction, but I like Newman, so it's kind of hard to say. I'd like to stay small. I'd like just to stay homey, but I guess I'd like to see the teens have something more that they're doing with their free time.
Thank you.
Yes, my question is, what do you feel the most pressing concern is, pressing planning concern is for the city of Newman?
Construction, the real estate problems. That's what it feels like just walking around, that there's a pain, a financial pain because of just the empty lots. Did I get the question right?
You're doing fine.
Yeah,
You're doing fine.
that's all that comes to my mind.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have two questions for you.
Wow.
The first one is, what do you like? I'm taking your spot this time, Ted. What do you like the most about Newman, and what do you like the least about Newman?
Oh, I like the most that I feel safe. As an older person, I didn't mind parking my car a couple of blocks and walking here, and I wouldn't have felt that where I used to live. So I love that sense. I love the community. I love going to the grocery store and shopping and talking to somebody and feeling like I know them, even though I've only been here a couple of years. I like just feeling welcome. So that's what I like.
That's very good. And the second question is, what should the city's position on growth be, both residential and commercial?
Residential, slow and steady. I'm afraid, because I've been in a city where it happened too fast, that when it happens too fast, the infrastructure's not there, and things just go haywire. just doesn't happen right. It's not grounded well. What was the second part?
For both residential and commercial.
Oh, and commercial? For commercial, I'd like to see the library grow a little bit so that there were more books. When I take my granddaughter there and when I go there, there's just not quite enough books for us to find. And I guess it kind of falls back to the earlier thing, maybe a resource center or something where parents and kids could go to get support. But
I like your ideas. Commercial, I'm talking about businesses where, business?
Oh, business?
Yeah, I'm,
The gentleman that presented the medical from a commercial perspective, just being able to have medical facilities that are closer than driving to Turlock or
Exactly.
Modesto. I'm not too much a big fan of the big commercial process, so this is not a good one for me, I guess.
it's okay. That's
I don't want
fine.
to see Target or Walmart.
No.
So maybe a bookstore.
Okay.
That's a hard one for me.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Can I ask that one question, Mayor? Is that okay?
I think it's only fair that you do.
What would you like to see downtown? Is there anything else you can think of that would draw more people to the city, to shop, to eat, to be entertained, that kind of thing?
I think a coffee shop.
We've tried that.
But it didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work.
You know, Mr. B's, I used to go to Mr. B's, and one of the things that he and I had talked about was I thought that maybe I'd do tutoring there and just offer free tutoring. So I think that from my position, I wish that there was somewhere where I could go and sit and hear a little bit of music in the background and feel unpressured to have to leave and to feel that I could see the community there. And it was just, it didn't really have so much a direction so much as a spot. Just a spot that was maybe even a guitar in the background. You know, just very casual, very almost the old school coffee shop kind of feel, but not really a coffee shop. All right.
Well, that was it. Ms. Bass, thank you.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you. You survived.
A record set tonight. Yeah.
Good evening.
Hello, Mr. Andrews. How are you?
Pretty good.
All right. Just relax and shake off the cobwebs and
Get the jitters
and
Paramedics are coming from the other two, but don't worry. 20 questions for you, but. Welcome.
Thank you.
My question is, what is your reason and motivation for seeking a planning commission?
Interested in what's going on in the city. I work for the city of Patterson as a planner, so I'm familiar with planning. Have a good idea what goes on, what kind of things to look for, and so just looking to help the city and go from there.
What should the relationship be between the commission and the council?
The council sets the policy, and the planning commission makes sure that happens. As a planning commissioner, you need to look at what the policy is from the general plan, and our new developments, are they following those? Are they following the municipal code? And making recommendations where those things are needed to the city council.
Mr. Andrews, what is your vision for the city in terms of what you'd like to see look like the next 10 to 20 years?
Sure. One of the number one land use goal in the general plan is keeping a small town feel, basically, and that's, I think, what everyone likes about Newman. And it's also talks about, at the same time, seeing commercial and industrial developments come in, those opportunities. And so that's a very tight rope to walk, and that's what I would like to see, that there's more opportunities, but we maintain that small town feel.
Okay.
Joel, my question is, what do you think is the most pressing planning concern for the city of Newman right now? Loaded question.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of them are regional and state issues. Water is a big concern right now for the state. The economy, and probably say around those.
Thank you.
Joel, I have two questions for you. What do you like the most about Newman, and what do you like the least about Newman?
One of the other candidates, we were talking in the back there, and she was talking about how it felt good to be able to walk outside at night and just to get here. I enjoy the safety of it. I feel my family can go for walks. We can go play in the park, and we don't feel like we're in danger at all.
Good. Chief, did you pay these? Sorry. Second question is, what should the city's position on growth be, both residential and commercial?
Residential, I'd say a slow growth approach. There's quite a number of lots that have been approved already that are vacant. And just watching those develop out, if there's a need, if another development can come in that provides a need for the city, that's great. We can look at that. Commercial and industrial, people are looking for jobs right now, and that's important.
Thank you.
That's it?
Thank you.
I was gonna ask
Oh, that's right.
one question. It was a good question. What would you do to bring more people downtown?
I know there have been efforts to have more of a nightlife. I think the theater provides a good step for that. Building up restaurants, other activities that people can come downtown and see those kind of things.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Okay, council. You had an opportunity to hear the three candidates. The task before you is now to select one of the three.
I make the motion that we appoint Brian, so as long as the law.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
I didn't hear what the motion was.
My motion is we appoint Vernon Sloan
Okay.
to the planning commission.
Got a motion and a second for appointment of Ms. Sloan to the commission. Do we need roll call, Mike? No, just a vote? A voice vote, then. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
And I'm still torn. I can't make a decision yet. Only because I think all three of you did such a great job, so it's difficult for me. Guess that's why they pay me the big bucks. I think all three of you did such an excellent job, and Oh my goodness. I found myself in a predicament where I can't make a selection because I really liked all three candidates. I think I'll go ahead and I'll vote to support Ms. Sloan's appointment. So the motion passes 3-2. Welcome, Lorna. You've been selected. All right.
Can I make a quick comment?
Sure.
The other two, please do not stop. We're getting better and better candidates every time, for commissions, for everything. It's wonderful. We need this blood in the city. Please keep coming out and watching what's going on, because you will be up here someday, guarantee it. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ted. Okay, we'll go to item C, which is the presentation by the Newman Youth Sports Alliance Sports Complex at Mariposa Park.
Mayor, may I just lead into this a bit before they do the presentation? if you don't
Please
mind,
do.
Stan? The city, I've had informal talks with Newman Youth Sports Alliance over a number of years. This group has been around for several years, and they've been looking for a site to develop a multi-sport complex. It's probably been a number of months ago that they approached me and kind of asked what my opinion was on the city's 9.7, I call it 10-acre site on Mariposa, which is directly behind the middle school, and the use of that particular property for a more multi-sport complex. Again, I've met with them a couple of times. At that point in time, I said, well, at some point you need to get together some renderings, some drawings, and present those to the council. And that was at the latest meeting. The mayor also attended that meeting where we kind of gave him some guidance. So what we have tonight is a presentation by Newman Youth Sports Alliance, and you'll see some renderings. They have a number of people, as you can see here, that are very active with this project. They have engineers involved with this project. It's been a long time in the making. So what they want to do to you is show you what they believe is a potential for a multi-sports complex on the city's 10-acre site on Mariposa. And what they're asking you to do is kind of get your concurrence. Do you think it's a good idea? If it is, then what staff would ask then after the conclusion of their presentation is, again, have a conversation amongst yourself and then decide whether or not you believe this site would be suitable for a multi-sports complex, at least to the level where you want staff to expend some time on this. This is a long time in the making in terms of where we need to go. First thing we need to do is, if staff or the council agrees that this is a good idea, staff needs to work with them and start, looking at the pros and cons to this site, infrastructure issues, accessibility issues, and all these things. And these come up and look at their proposal and see, is it feasible, and help them develop and understand what city standards are and what city standards would be for this particular site. So at the end of their presentation, again, you feel free to ask them what you are. What we would be looking for from staff is, do you concur enough with this particular project that you would like to see staff expend some staff time on it? And then at that time, we would come back to you and try to, again, present what all the pros and cons are to this particular site. Does that make sense to everybody? I'm just trying to lead into you and ask you and let you know from staff's perspective is there's still a long ways to go on this, but for staff to spend some time on this, we'll probably have to, spend a little bit of time on this. It's going to be my planner, my public works director, potentially an engineer. There'll be a little bit of staff time that has to go towards this, and if it's a worthwhile enough project on your side, that's what we're asking for right now, is a little bit of direction from you that yeah, staff, we think this is worthwhile enough to go and expend some time. And then after we get through all the infrastructure, development issues, we'll have to then, if you still concur, then we start working with our attorneys for all the legal issues. I mean, ownership, lease, transfer of property. They'll have some requirements that they'll need in order to allow them to apply for grant funding that is available to nonprofits but not to government agencies. There's lots of different things that have to go on. So this is a multi-stage project, and we're at the initial stage right now. So with that, I can answer any questions that you have either now or after their presentation.
Council? Any questions of Michael?
Not right now.
Not right now.
Okay.
First off, we'd like to thank the council and the mayor for giving us the opportunity to talk tonight. My name is Stan Hansen. I'm the president of the Newman Youth Sports Alliance. Just a quick, brief history. In 2005, we became nonprofit. We started looking into try to do a project with the developer prior to the new city growth plan. So when the city growth plan went from 6 months to a year to 2 years, and then the economic slowdown, it's right now a bad time for the developer to continue through with us at this time. So in our conversation of talking, we found this piece of property that the city owns off of West Mariposa, and that is the reason we're here tonight, to try to form a partnership with the city to possibly move forward with this project. I'm going to ask Russ Ramus, our vice president, to come up and go through our slide presentation. And then after that, I'm going to ask our engineer and our designer to step up if there's questions from the council to see what they can help us with.
Thank you, Stan. My name is Russell Ramus, and I'm a resident here of Newman. I want to thank the mayor and the council for allowing us to officially make this request to venture into a partnership with you to see if we can make this project happen. My role for the next 2 minutes or so is just to give a brief overview of this project. We have, every meeting we've had for the last couple of years, every fundraiser we put together has all been about this slide, this goal. And I'll read it. The Newman Youth Sports Alliance is providing a unique multi-activity complex encompassing the needs of the West Side communities. In short, we're trying to find sports activities and places for youth and adults that are still able to participate in sports. A very first-class facility to do it at. We've borrowed a slogan because it's very cool and it fits, Field of Dreams. The Newman Youth Sports Alliance envisions a self-sufficient multi-activity sports complex. 3 softball diamonds or 3 baseball diamonds, depending on what league, what youth, what ages. Can go both ways. A snack bar, an enclosed and covered playground for the little ones. We envision using solar power. Thank you. We envision using solar power, water supplied by an on-property well, having our own sewage system, using rental fees to take care of maintenance, and the fees to take care of the maintenance, so the city doesn't have to worry about that, the funding for that. We also envision having a perimeter fence with ample parking, a perimeter fence around the entire facility. The partnership we're requesting is because the city of Newman has the property. The city of Newman also has the residents and the youth that would benefit from this facility. The Newman Youth Sports Alliance is a nonprofit organization, so we have that nonprofit status. We have volunteers and we have fundraising activities already and plans for future ones. This facility that the city has is located, as was stated, north of Yolo Middle School, which is south of West Mariposa Street and west of T Street. 9.5 acres on lots 17 and 18. And the funding potential sources would be private investors, grants that we've already have lined up some. one of our individuals is a grant writer, from private, public, government agencies. We have fundraising events, we would get sponsors, and we would hopefully enter into some other partnerships. That's the quick overview. The property, if you can see this slide, is there's a yellow circle around the faded area in the middle, and that's the 10 acres or so. North is at the top. This is Yolo Middle School. They have their property, Yolo, and then there's the 10 acres. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Stan, and if you have any questions. The next one.
That is our proposal. A full complex for multi-sports activities. Portable fences that can come down and be used so those softball and baseball fields can be turned into soccer fields. Areas to have general fall festival, different things, staging areas for your parades, and a whole lot of different activities. When Russ covered that about self-sufficient, I was able to meet with the Director of Parks, Mr. Reynolds, and we spoke for quite a bit. And he had told me that on that side of town, there's not city lines or anything into that. So our proposal is to make that fully functioned self-sufficient. But at the same time, plumb it. So when it's ready and the city's at the edge there, ready to go in, it'll be ready to plug right into your city systems. So at this time, I'd like to introduce and bring up, if I can, our designer, Don DeGraff, and our engineer, Bill Morris of Morris Engineering. And they can probably help us a little bit more of any questions from the council.
Don DeGraff, former resident and baseball player in the city of Newman. Bob Navoa's team, actually. So goes back quite a ways.
You're aging yourself, Don.
I know.
Good evening, Bill Morris, Morris Engineering. Small little town of Oakdale, but if there's any questions that we can address or talk about.
I can only see one thing wrong right now, and that's it, that you're gonna have to move the fence back and Bob Martina back.
Is that the right or left side?
Either one.
They're going to be portable, so we can take it down for him.
Good.
Make it taller.
Yeah.
Stan, just quickly, you started this vision started when? What year was that?
Prior to '05, I mean, me and Russ have been friends since we moved to this town almost 13 years ago when our kids started playing. We always questioned why, when we were going to other towns and taking our kids to play in tournaments and stuff, that they had these nice parks and projects going on, and then we come back to Newman and we're fighting for practice places for our little leagues, for our girls teams, in front of churches on Saturdays and Sundays. And so this was started a little talk, and comment came by, well, if you want to build it, you better build it yourself. So we got talking. I got a lot of the different people that's in our board right here involved, and over the years we started talking about it, became a board, got our 503 status, and here's where we are today. I'm just kind of curious in the fundraisers. I've attended a couple of them myself. How much money have you guys been able to put together just to get started? The monies we've put together as pretty well has been paying for things like this, insurance, and also property taxes. We own a piece of property on the other side of town that was donated to us from a developer that was going to be worked into the plans in the future, and as it has happened, it's not going to work. So we've got a piece of property over there that we paid for about 5 years now, paying taxes and insurance on to maintain, because we don't really know what to do with it right now. The project we're looking at is what we're hoping for to make a partnership with the city is on a lease option type thing. If our plan is an 8-year plan. We believe that we can establish our funding between 18 and 24 months. Using grants, we have grant writers on board. Then construction would take about a year. To have it complete within about 3.5 years. Then NYSA would like to continue running it for 3 or 4 years to get the programs built up. And the overall plan is then, at that time, turn the whole operation and keys back over to the city of Newman and present that project to you towards yours.
Okay, so, and I'm not impressed, I'm just curious. So you guys don't have any bank at this time? Other
We
than the
don't have
property you
bank
own?
for the reason is grants will not let us apply for grants. We've looked into them until we have a physical address that they can see where that money is gonna go to. We have looked into the different types of grants and we qualify for a lot of them. But if you don't have an address to go with that grant, they won't accept that grant. We believe that we can get established grants within 18 to 24 months to be able to not just start it, but to complete it once we start it.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions like that?
I think the whole concept is a great idea, but there's a lot of unanswered questions, you know, and the city of Newman would take on a lot of responsibility once it did come back to the city. And those questions, I need to have those answered as far as how we're gonna do it and what it's gonna cost. I mean, this could be a nightmare for a city if they had to take something back like this and it really wasn't generating enough capital even to make sense to run the darn thing.
If you would see what tournaments can bring in, our goal would be to host youth, high school youth, adult tournaments on weekends. It would generate a lot to the city if you bring in 24 or 30 teams from out of the town to come in for the weekend. Gas stations, restaurants, grocery stores. The city would get their parts back from the revenue built back from what this would bring in, and the value of what it would be once it's complete.
Well, I understand, Sam, but I'm just saying that the city needs to have a complete analysis to make sure that what you're saying is true. I mean, I think it's a great concept, like I said. I think it's something the city needs and it would be wonderful to have it. But I just don't, I want to make sure that we know what we're getting into before we get into this.
Well, I understand, and that's where it would be, like Mike said. I mean, for us to sit down and work out the logistics and see what the lawyers have to say, how they would want to word it. You know, at the end of the process, if you wanted us, you know, our organization to continue running it, you know, for the town, I mean, that's something that we can look into at the end of our agreement.
Well, I think obviously this project is quite a few years down the road.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I personally, I don't think that it's going to damage us if, you know, we have our staff continue to work with them, at least take a look at it, and, you know, there's going to be feasibility studies, there's going to be a lot of things going to have to be done, so I can't see any reason why, if council concurs, that, you know, we have our staff work with them, and so Michael can then gather those answers that you're all asking about. I think it's really premature for us to say, well, we don't think it's a good idea. I think it's worth exploring, and I think it's not going to cost us any money other than our staff time. And I would like to see some time spent just to see if one at that location is even going to be a useful location for us. I'm sure the residents probably have something to say about it. You know, if it comes to fruition, I can hear it. Traffic concerns, you know, there's going to be in and out traffic. It can't be one way in, one way out. So there's a lot of hurdles and a lot of hoops to be gone through. So I would like to see staff at least, you know, meet with them and continue working with them, continue talking. And obviously we're not making any decision to say, you know, go forward and get it done. I think I don't know if any of us will even still be on the council when that comes to fruition. It might, you know, I don't know, but.
Speak for yourself.
You're a glutton for punishment. So I don't know if council concurs. I'd like to have see staff meet with them and continue talking, and let's just see if it's even a feasible project. Because they still have to go through, meeting with the planning commission and everybody else. I mean, we want to keep everybody involved in this process. And so it does become a community project. And who knows, maybe we'll let them run forever and just give us a check every month. I don't know. But I think it's worth exploring.
I totally agree. Mike, do we have anything for that? I mean, that using that land in the near future or even far future?
Well, that's an excellent question. Originally, this property was secured by the city prior to my arrival for employment. And originally there was a school district city joint use design that was thrown out there. That did not stand the test of time as the middle school started to develop. Some of that has already gone by the wayside. Originally we looked at an aquatic center out there. We have since changed locations on that. And then lastly, if you look at our general plan and how we have structured future development as master plans, large master plans, and laying out parks and the like, there's a chance that this may not ultimately be a park site, city park site. It could be something in the future. But again, that doesn't preclude, an outside group, a nonprofit, from developing it as a park site. But that being said, though, we just from an initial perspective, staff does still have some concerns of whether or not and how feasible this site is. And the mayor touched on accessibility. Stan touched on it, infrastructure, making the appropriate arrangement to make it all work. I did a preliminary report, I think it was back in about 2004. And I think I provided that to Stan. That kind of showed where the infrastructure was at, some of the improvements that were going to be needed, cost analysis. We could probably need to update that a little bit. Traffic is a big concern. Also understanding what NYSA would like, lights, no lights, operational parameters, those types of things. So there's a lot of work I think that needs to be done, but I think it would be a worthwhile endeavor for at least to go to the next step and do that preliminary analysis, work with the group, and see if it works for both sides. I mean, it may work for us, and we say, yeah, let's do it, but then they get a little bit deeper in, and maybe it's a little bit more than they're willing to bite off at this time. We don't know. I think both sides needs to do some due diligence, work together, and make sure we both understand, what we would be getting into. So, does that answer the question?
Yeah, I concur that it's a worthwhile project to continue to look at, but there's a lot of hurdles, gentlemen. There's a lot of hurdles, and of course, we never know unless we don't get together and talk about them and see if they can be resolved, and if there really truly is a good location for this type of operation. So I would concur that we should continue.
My concern is in the next 5 years, we don't become liable for money. We really can't afford this.
Well, I don't think there's any commitment of funding at this point. I think part of what they're looking at, if I understand them, is if this process goes along, if we form this partnership, if we allow them to use that property, it's an address in which they can now start applying for some funding. They have to have a 62221 Mariposa Street address, whatever it is out there, on their application process to apply for funds. I don't think we're committing any funds. We're just saying go forward with staff, have them look at it, and go to the next level. There's going to be a lot of meetings between now and then before I think this council, even if any of us are still here, will have to make a decision whether there's any funding available, if we can. I don't think they're looking for us for funding. I think they're looking for us to allow them to use that piece of property. That's what I'm hearing.
That is my question.
Okay.
And I think with with some due diligence and working with Stan and his group, we'll be able to flush out a lot in the first 2 to 3 months. Within 6 months, we'll know whether this is a good fit for both sides or not, and then we can come back to you you know, again, there'll be checks and balances where we have to come back to the council and say, okay, are we ready to go the next step? And if we go the next step, and then you have other commissions that have to be brought into this as well. Parks and Rec has to be brought into it. Planning Commission has to be brought into it. There's still lots of checks and balances that need to take place, but ultimately we got to keep coming back to you. Okay, we're here. How comfortable are you going forward from here, and how comfortable are you going from here? So at this point in time, we're asking, do you want us to spend some staff time, not necessarily funds, to analyze this?
Okay with everybody? Is it
Yeah.
consensus to
I agree.
go for it?
I'm impressed that you guys are, feel you can do this. This is amazing. It's gonna be a tough haul, but, definitely have some excellent support. So, and I know you wouldn't be here unless you had your ducks lined up or almost lined up. So that's excellent. I'm impressed. Good for you guys.
Thank you.
Hey Stan, would you mind putting a couple tennis courts over on the inside?
I was gonna say.
You gave me your want list once before. If that's what it takes, yeah, we can have it. We'll leave a name in after you.
No, I don't think so.
Another 9 acres, we can
You
go for a golf
gentlemen are
course.
to be commended for what you're trying to do, because it's not an easy thing.
Okay, well,
Can we squeeze a golf course in there?
now that,
Putting green.
okay.
It'll be frisbee golf.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, then I take it the consensus is that we'd like to have staff go ahead and continue talking, meeting with them, and let's see what we can come up with.
Agree.
Okay? All right.
So with that, I would say, Stan, just contact me tomorrow or the next day, and we'll start setting up some meetings and getting together and putting a schedule together about how we can get together and work this all out.
Okay?
We'd like to thank the council and the mayor. Thank you.
All righty. We will move on to item D. It's the first reading and introduction of ordinance number 2010, next in number, amending the Title IX Police Regulations, adding Chapter 9.16 Police Towing Services. Wow.
His report is a lot better when there's more people here.
I promise I'll be riveting.
Well, we'll give them a couple of minutes to get out the door.
You stay and listen to the audit guy, but they won't listen to
Yeah. We should have moved you up, Chief.
Yeah.
Who's the hell got the air conditioning?
I don't know. Hey, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to have to excuse myself from these proceedings.
Okay.
I have a possible conflict of interest here, so.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Councilman Candia is going to step down from the diocese, because he has a potential conflict of interest. He's going to start a towing service. No, no.
We'll find
No,
you.
he's not.
Don't eat any cookies.
No. Okay, Chief, the podium is all yours with limited people in the audience.
That's all right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Before you tonight is just an introduction and first reading of a new ordinance that we do not have. It's not a modification or any corrections or anything like that. It's a completely new chapter to Title IX of Police Regulations of the Newman Municipal Code. So we won't be asking necessarily for any action tonight, maybe some guidance on one particular issue that we'll get to later. But this would establish an ordinance that would regulate tow companies that provide towing service to the police department. As I'm sure you're aware, we do a good number of what we would call non-consensual tows. Examples of unlicensed drivers, suspended drivers, DUIs, these types of things, abandoned cars, these sorts of tows. Most cities, particularly in our area, and it's common throughout the state, have an ordinance that does regulate the tow operators, and that provides some protection for the customers that they serve. That, of course, that we deliver to them through whatever unfortunate circumstances that we encounter them. And it provides cost, protections on the tow vehicles, inspections, rotational list, fairness, these types of things. And as I said, we don't have anything like that now. So we're actually proposing a number of things. One, to provide those type of regulations so we know that we have safe trucks, responsible, trustworthy drivers operating those. They're obviously taking into care and custody people's personal property, their vehicles, which of course can be very valuable, and then the contents often of those vehicles stay inside. So we want to make sure our tow operators are people that we can trust to do that. And as I said, we currently don't have any regulations whatsoever. It also controls the cost that they can charge the owners of those vehicles. Currently, although no one is doing this, we've had great partnership with our tow companies, but there is nothing on the books that would prohibit them from charging basically whatever they want to these customers. Fortunately, the ones that we do business with are all consistent and charge a reasonable rate that is comparable to other communities. But we do need to regulate that because you never know if a new company comes in or someone decided to start charging an unreasonable rate and basically gouge the people that are having their vehicles towed. So that would be the second part, that we need to control that cost as well. The third part is what is fairly new to the towing industry, at least with their partnership with police departments, is what's referred to as a franchise tow agreement. And in our particular area, the city of Modesto and the city of Oakdale have already implemented and adopted it, and it's in the works now. And city of Turlock is a little bit behind us, but they're gearing up to do it as well. What that essentially does is the vehicle code allows us to recover some of our costs in regards to the towing industry and our relationship with them, inspections of their facilities, the background checks on their drivers, control of the rotation list, who's on the service, and dealing with the customers and all of the things that go with the staff time associated with those tows. And the vehicle code allows us to charge a franchise fee per tow on each vehicle. And we would propose, or we are proposing, there'd be a 3-year term for that franchise agreement, which is essentially we'd enter into a contract with these tow companies. The first year being $40 per tow, the second year $45 per tow, and the third year $50 per tow. That particular fee is the company would pay the city to recover the staff costs for that. Those numbers are consistent with other jurisdictions in our area and other areas of California. So it's really the three parts. It's kind of a complex, we're throwing a lot at you today, and next week or the following week when we do the second reading, and then we'll even be talking about this in the third meeting from now, assuming that it passes. Because it is a lot of new issues, they're complex, but it is consistent with what other jurisdictions are doing. One issue that you will hear about tonight, I believe from two companies, is we did require in the ordinance that the business be a business in Newman. In other words, have a yard, an office, employees that can deal with customers, answer customer service issues, deal with the customers in Newman so our residents don't have to travel outside of our city. We did that keeping in mind what we think the council has guided us on the past and other arrangements in trying to keep business local. Currently, we use a number of tow companies, only one of which are in the city. So our current residents now have to drive to other cities to recover their property, pick up their vehicles, etc. That requirement is consistent with other jurisdictions as well. Example, the city of Turlock requires that now. City of Modesto is within 2 miles. The city of Oakdale requires in the city, with exception is they did grandfather, I believe, one riverbank company when they implemented it. So it is consistent, and that'll, I think, will be the issue that some folks will probably be speaking to you about shortly, and we would probably like some guidance at least on that particular issue tonight, so we know how to proceed. Obviously, you can't adopt the ordinance in its current state at the next meeting if you choose to change that particular requirement. So we would need to hear that tonight, so I can modify the ordinance, and we can move forward in the future meetings.
The ordinance says now.
The current proposed ordinance that is before you now does require that they have a yard and an office and regular business hours in Newman to greet customers. Correct. That's what's before you as it stands now, which is consistent with the other jurisdictions as well.
Can I ask one other quick question? Is there any time where you tow that it's not because of some kind of crime that's been committed?
Yes, and those would not apply. These are what we refer to as non-consensual. So you're in a traffic collision, you're transported to the hospital in an ambulance. That would not be the case, unless, of course, you were DUI or you didn't have a license. Otherwise, it would be what we call a courtesy tow type thing, and that would still be that provider or whoever, if we have multiple providers, would exactly. And we don't also charge a release fee on those, and there would be no franchise fee for those as well. This is only for folks that have committed some violation. And if be happy to answer any other questions. And other than that, that's my presentation. And in case you have after the other speakers, certainly I'm available for any other questions.
Any questions to the chief?
Yes, I have one. Would this franchise fee apply to a car that's been sitting for more than 3 days in this tow?
Yes, that would be a non-consensual. That would be a violation. So that one would apply. The tow company would have to pay us the franchise fee for that vehicle, and that one would apply, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, they do. That's why I got my notes here. Someone would like to make a comment to the council, I understand? Sure. Please just state your name and address.
Hi, my name's Jim Silva. I'm representing McCully Ford. I live here in Newman on Balsam Avenue. In regards to what the chief just said, the requirements are all normal and good. In a smallish town like this, I think that possibly having only one tow company to deal with, which all you have now, may not be enough. We meet all the current requirements except for a yard in Newman, although we are only 12 miles away. We've been in the Newman rotation for 15 years, so apparently we've done well. We want to continue being a part of the Newman community. We have been for years. We contribute to all the local fundraisers, school functions. We have 4 members of our staff at McCully who are residents of Newman. We have long-term plans to expand, but as we all know, the economy as it sets right now, it's hard to set up a new business as we go. It's certainly in our plans to have a yard and service yard here in Newman. So we want to continue to be part of the west side and Newman, especially with as many people as we have working here. All of our tow drivers are certified. Our trucks are new and certified, and we currently, again, meet all the requirements except for having a yard in Newman. We feel, and I'm sure that once consideration is taken to it, that one tow company may not be enough to make the rotation safe. It could cause, obviously, delays. And of course, anytime a delay happens, it could cause unsafe circumstances on the roadway. Being a retired policeman, I know that well. I've many times said, when's the tow going to get here? I don't believe we're in the same position that maybe Turlock or Modesto are, because they are so much more of what you want to call Turlock urban. They're more urban. We are definitely suburban out here. To get extra help is a longer way away for us. So when the time would come when maybe another tow truck would be needed, I think having one only 12 miles away that it's proven itself many, many times may be a very good option. We also we're willing to donate $35 extra on a tow and of course pay the franchise fee. You can have whatever cause is the most prevalent at the time. Thank you so much for your time. I'm not, our tow specialist or anything like that, but I live here, and I thought it would be a pleasure to see all of you and see how it works.
Did a good job.
Thanks. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Silva? Any questions? Well, I think one thing I see right off the bat, under the response time, I think you'd have a hard time meeting a response time of 20 minutes. Sending a tow truck from Patterson, unless he's speedy, then he might find himself on the other side of the ticket. I think that compounds the problem. And again, just because of my prior law enforcement experience, it's difficult for a tow service. When an officer's out there, he wants to get the tow truck there and get the vehicle out. But I've always felt, even when I was in a position to make those decisions, that I felt that the tow service, when I was approached, when I was making those decisions, we required them to be local. I think it's unfair to ask somebody to travel to Patterson to go try to find their car, especially if it's on a weekend, they can't get to it. I like the ordinance as I've read it, as the chief has written it, to require a storage lot local. And if Macaulay eventually wants to get a yard here in town and a facility to store vehicles, then I'm sure they'd be considered under the current ordinance as it's written. He says, as I said, they've been in business for 15 years, but they've had plenty of ample time and opportunities to put a local yard here in town. So just based on the fact I think it's unreasonable to require somebody to travel to go get their vehicle after it's been towed and stored, I think it should be, if our department tows it and it's stored, I think it should be here local.
Do we have two here?
Yeah.
I mean, do we have two here in town there? I mean, that we can, because I mean, I can't imagine it when you're trying to call somebody and they're responding maybe something else, then you have to wait for that. I mean, we have to have a backup, don't you, I would assume?
Well, at one time, we had 4 services here in town. But as M&M closed, went out of business, Patches closed, went out of business, I think now we have Newman Tow. I'll give somebody else a chance also to serve. So I'm not sure what else they have. But Macaulay's had their opportunity, and I'm sorry I didn't recognize you sooner. Step on up and state your name and address, please.
My name is Jason Madruga. This is Jeremy Madruga. We're the owners of Newman City Tow. We are currently the only tow company within the city limits. It's regarding whether there is it's going to be too much for us to handle. That is definitely a fair question. However, that will definitely not pose a problem for us. We have ample equipment right now to run this area. The call volume currently here is low enough to where there wouldn't be any problems regarding that. And then upon approval, we plan on hiring another person who is currently in the office now to also be able to run calls. That is, as far as you mentioned the backup plan, well, we have plenty of equipment in town now for that. Currently right now we have a couple pieces of equipment that sit. When other guys are off, those pieces of equipment are sitting at the yard. So there's definitely plenty of that to go around. I think it's really important for the people of Newman, their dollars to stay in Newman. We have other locations, other tow businesses in the surrounding areas, Turlock, Merced, Patterson. Another question that I pose is, if we open it to people out of the area, what is going to stop every other company from applying? I currently have a company in Patterson, which is not on the Newman rotation, because in our years of experience, in our other cities, with the police department, it's within the city limits. So we did not try to get on the Newman rotation. However, if it were to open up, as I said, what would stop companies from Turlock, companies from Patterson, and companies from Stantonelle, anybody in the surrounding areas, to come and perhaps take more of the city's dollars.
Jim, how many trucks are you guys running now in Newman?
In Newman, we have 3.
You're running 3 trucks now, and you still have more available if.
Correct.
if
Well,
there's-
generally on a day-to-day basis, 1 is typically running, sometimes 2, but for the most part, 1 truck is able to handle the area as far as our call volume goes. And we have a staff of 4 drivers, and then we would be upping that to 5. That is, that's not a concern of ours whatsoever, is not to be able to handle the volume. As low as the volume is, I believe the figures were 180 last year.
160.
160
158.
158 non-consensual tows last year. That's not very many. That's not very many at all.
We're going to improve on that, aren't we?
That's not our goal.
But with our experience in the tow business, we have 9 trucks in Turlock. We have 6 trucks in Merced. We have 3 more trucks in Patterson. If we felt the need that we needed to up the equipment or up employees, we have the experience and the know-how to make sure that that would happen. We have a great relationship with Newman Police Department and with the city. We built a new building over there on Inyo and L Street a couple years back, and we look forward to continuing that great relationship.
Thank you. Thank you. Chief, have you had with Newman Tow? Has it been problematic getting service, getting trucks out?
No, and the 20-minute, we had some discussion under that. That would be another change. Obviously, no way Patterson could accommodate the 20 minutes. So, unless the truck was kept in town at all times, so we would have to make that modification as well if you chose to delete that requirement. And as Mr. Madruga said, that would also open the entire process back up. There were other companies. We had, I believe, total 5 that the other 3 chose obviously not to attend based on the requirements. We would have to, of course, re-invite them and everyone to come back unless we came up with some other mild restriction. There are also, I'd like to point out, and it's before you as well, but some of the concerns that the truck's not available or they fail the response time, there are sanctions in the ordinance for that there are consequences built in, some are monetary, suspension, and obviously ultimately we could terminate the agreement and go to Plan B. So if things, Newman City Tow, for example, hypothetically, they are the only company that currently meets the requirement. If for some reason 3 months down the road, clearly they're in over their head, it's not working, there are appropriate sanctions built into the contract to remedy that. So we would obviously meet with them. This is violation number 1. You need to do something about this. Hopefully, they would make accommodations to bring in another truck, hire the employees that they say that they're going to, and I believe it's the third offense that would lead to the termination of the contract, and then we would have to go to Plan B and re-invite others or scrap the whole thing or whatever we chose. There's also a monetary deposit that's required through the term of the contract of $2,000. For some reason, if they're not paying us, or there are other issues that require financial sanction, we have that on deposit for the term of the agreement, so that to make sure the bills are being paid.
Yeah, like I say, Newman Tow they've put in a nice facility out on Inyo, an office, a yard. The trucks are local. I would simply say if other services want to get in on the game, then maybe I'll locate a business here and put a yard here, put a truck here, and start bidding and put in a business, and get in on the game. But as it stands now, the way I see it, Newman Tow happens to be in the right place at the right time. They meet all the requirements, so I couldn't see deviating from what the chief has proposed. And with that, I ask for council direction.
I make a motion that, what do we need to do here?
It's a first reading.
First reading.
Just the first reading.
But you still do move to introduce it for the first time.
Okay, I move to introduce it for the first time then. definitely.
They will adopt it at the next meeting. And I guess you want to confirm that it's as written.
As written, definitely.
I second that.
Been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with one outside. Yeah. Okay. We'll wait for our fifth member to return.
What's it say? You guys are the only business in town.
Only game in
You do a
town.
good job too, by the way.
Mayor, we're gonna probably run out of tape. We can either take a 5-minute or let's go on a roll for it.
Let's roll.
You want to roll or a break, Bob? We're out already?
Yeah.
So it makes no difference?
Can we take a break?
You gotta change it or you're gonna get knocked in.
I'll take a little break.
With Bob Martina there, right?
Should we throw another one in?
Well, the next.
You know,
'cause we still-
Supervisor DeMartini's got to speak.
And we have a presentation. We actually have a presentation by each of our department heads are going to give a presentation
Bob.
over the coming week.
Reboot it.
That talks
Okay.
about what happened in 2009 and what our goals are for 2010. So I would suggest.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break so Bob can reload.
Beauty.
It's cookie time.
Do we have any?
Do we have any? You know,
We don't have any.
of course, not having a yard in town.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't make any sense, but you put a yard in town.
That's up to him.
Yeah. His presentation was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was out of my consistently at all.
Oh, really?
Hello.
Yes. Well, you can tell.
I ain't going anywhere.
You ain't going anywhere? Tell it sounds like,
I'm gonna be next to that guy.
Technical difficulties.
whatever. I just want to know for the vote for Lorna, the split, I couldn't tell who was who.
3-2.
I know Shine, the Marshall.
We got enough room. I mean, I don't mind the idea. I just think we're gonna have room.
No. Roberta.
And I could move down and just look at even with this.
Yeah.
I mean, you might get one there, but.
Figure out how that worked, because I'm like, wait a second, you got second.
So now we're
Ted
talking.
and
No.
Roberta.
Roberta made the motion.
Ted seconded it.
Ted seconded it.
I agree, but how would we do it?
Against 4.
He gets in and screwed up.
We should have figured out about that.
That was tough. It was tough.
It was kind of cool to see the different things in like a little system.
I'm just saying,
I
they could
think
have
like
taken that a little further or something.
one form I believe was very,
What we need to do is connect this to that.
down the road.
Think about
Well,
this, what if
he
this
works
wrapped
there.
around, this is like a table, and like staff could kind of sit along next to that. Like so
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can
yeah.
get this counter.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Personally, I was like,
Yeah.
Those guys down and staff
no,
can just kind
it's
of.
a little too
Yeah,
fresh.
but see, I like it.
You know, Michael.
Because he brings that background.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
You know?
That was.
And we'd have to do
And that's what I mean, even though I didn't, I thought about.
When I heard him give up, that might be a really good possibility. You know what I mean? Like, it could be a real good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just liked it because he had the background.
Right.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I mean.
But also, you know, it was kind of,
Like Chris is up here and then Jimmy was here.
there was assemblyman, he goes up in the 60s, he visited Legacy Middle School. He has a.
I don't know, we're still.
Oh, really?
I mean, I don't know, that's the idea I got. Unfortunately, it's like.
Had no aspirations for politics.
Don't touch him.
You don't really have more room to go that way.
Wow. Really?
It's just kind of like, when this kid came up, I was like.
Wrap that around, there's a place for that.
He's a kid to me.
I mean, that's the only thing you can do, like I said, is right before we start.
I don't know.
No. I don't have any.
Yeah.
Tow guys, where's those tow guys that were just here?
You haven't jumped people's base cars then?
No, I do not.
Anybody have any jumper cables, Dave's cars?
Is the tow guy still here?
That's what I just said. He didn't bring his trash. Me too, man. Gosh. I didn't even turn it up that much.
Have hot flashes?
Too many people, man. I think that's what's going on. Oh my God, I was dying.
Hello. Mine works.
It doesn't get up here. That gets cold over there.
You're all too
We can't because of our car computers. We can't because of our car computers. We don't even have.
No.
Okay.
Sure, I gotta check them out.
Those are on and they're not working. I got a battery here.
Please don't have if they jump somebody Really? You jumped someone else's car?
There's a risk. They don't do that.
Batteries. Tom's too. Tom's doesn't work either. You need two more, Mikey.
I don't know if I have any more.
Hey, Chief.
Chief Adam.
Ooh, it worked.
Do you have any AA batteries?
Which two are out, Tom?
Tom's and...
I don't know if these are good. These might be old ones. I'll get this one.
And Bob's is out also.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is out too. Hey, Chief.
You gotta remember, I go to both cities.
Yeah.
Who else? Where you go? Patterson?
And Bob's is out too, Mikey.
Use this? Let's see if I got one more battery.
I read what you guys put, but it doesn't.
All right, let's see. Maybe this will do it.
No, I don't. I don't. Nah, not really. Joe, I see.
I didn't know there was batteries in here.
You know, they last a long time, but if they get left on, they'll eventually go bad. So I think over the holiday, maybe. Yeah. This is not working. I don't know if that's a...
Chief, you have any AA batteries?
Yeah.
Chief has
AA, one.
Just one? Oh, no, they are. They're having problems, huh? They're having problems?
You got another dead one?
I know Joe was really excited about they had the big grant.
What do you got there, buddy? Trash can or what?
Yeah. Sounds like ice cubes to me.
It does.
I was like, oh, we got a lot of beer over there.
Your time's up, I guess. Maybe that's why it's here.
It's coming.
I think last night. Did you have to go to the meeting last night? You okay?
And so, at least they're now being serious.
Yeah.
But they're so, I'm like, don't you talk to like, you guys are like, too behind each other. It was like, they're making each other look at you.
Got 3 years left. So.
Yeah.
You could save them some.
Save some.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so I remember.
Check on this and see if I see them in meetings at times.
Yeah, this one's
Yeah.
They were all dead.
the school was in here for dollars or something. And I think they all you know, sometimes people are stupid with them. They think they're working and they're not, and then they get left on.
So, I mean, I just
Hey, Adam. Tom, Michael, both signed Joe's free two copies. Yeah. You want it right now?
Okay, we're ready to rock and roll.
Thank you, buddy.
Yep.
No,
We're ready.
very quickly, but when I was doing that
Go,
measurement
good night.
for the education thing, I was down.
That's like a refrigerator in here now.
In front of
I thought he was.
I swear to God, 85% of the people that came
Okay,
through
where
that
are we?
door were from
Okay.
E. I was shocked. I said, "Isn't there anybody from Newman here?"
Alrighty.
Okay.
Okay, we're back in session. Go to item E, authorize the city manager to execute a contract with George Osner, AICP, for planning services.
Thank you, Mayor. Attached for your review is a copy of Mr. Osner's resume. And I bring this proposal before you because within the past month or so, the city received its first annexation proposal as part of the new Newman 2030 general plan. As you know, in the new general plan, it's a master plan requirement. This annexation that's being proposed is in the neighborhood of probably, I'm going to say it on average, about 250 to 300 acres. It's a multi-use annexation proposal, which means it has residential, commercial, and business all part of it. But with that being said, just based upon what's going on in the current economy and my workload, our planner, who does an excellent job for us, just at this point in time doesn't have the experience with these large-scale projects. So in my speaking with the developer about this issue, we discussed bringing an outside planner on that would come in, work directly for the city. His city staff reports to us, but the bill is paid by the developer. Mr. Osner does currently work for other cities. He does not work for private industry. I think he's doing some work for Modesto on a contract, City of Ceres, maybe Atwater and Lathrop as well. As you can see, his credentials are impeccable. He was the planning manager for the city of Modesto and has over 30 years of experience in Stanislaus County, so very well respected in the community. So with that, when I going backpedaling just a little bit, the fee that Mr. Osner charges would be $140. The developer would deposit a sum of money for us into our account and be held by the city. Any hours that when we have to pay Mr. Osner come directly out of that pot of money, including a 10% administration fee. And we pull that right out of there as well. As that pot of money starts getting lower, we go back to the developer and say, Mr. Osner's fund is lowered. You know, he obviously gets a copy of the invoices that Mr. Osner sends us. And then he would redeposit money into that account. So that way we are never paying out of our pocket. We would be paying out of the developer's pocket, as it's solely is project driven. So with that, staff is recommending that we move forward with Mr. Osner. We have worked with the developer, and he is in agreement that Mr. Osner would be a good match, and has no problems or objections to George coming on board. With that, I can answer any questions that you have right now.
Mike, how come the applicant just doesn't pay Mr. Osner?
Because we want him working for us, directly for us. He's our staff, he reports directly to us. Okay. So therefore, it's prudent that he's our contract planner, not a contract planner with the developer. So therefore, all direction comes from us.
Okay, and they're paying his salary, so actually we issue the check. There's no benefit package involved in this.
No, Mr. Osner is a contract planner.
Okay.
He's self-employed, and
it's $140 an hour.
$140 an hour is what he charges.
And how much money is going to be deposited into this account to pay Mr. Osner?
Well, it'll be a substantial sum.
I was saying it would have to be substantial.
What we'll probably do is we have a kickoff meeting coming up. At that point in time, we'll work out a schedule and it says, okay, we anticipate Mr. Osner is going to work 20 hours a week on this particular project, on average 15 hours a week. We write that out, okay, for the next, I want 2 months worth of deposit, 3 months worth of deposit. He puts it in as we start working it forward. You come in, you start getting closer to that time frame where we sit. Okay, you need to deposit another 2 or 3 months of work into the project. And that time frame kind of goes up and down, the amount of work he'll be doing, all dependent upon where we are in the process. Kickoff, with the initiation of meetings and all that starts things off quickly. Things will kind of die down a little bit because we'll just do a project review, look at the entire submittal package. We'll get all that going. He'll submit that back to them and the like.
But the funds are available right now to create that.
Once you tell me that we're going to hire Mr. Osner, the funds will be available before we sign the contract with Mr. Osner.
And those funds come from the developer.
Those funds come from the developer.
I love the contract, and I also love the precedent that we're setting, Mr. Kearney, for the future
Correct.
planning and things.
And that, just keep in mind, there's an additional application process fee that takes into account, they have to reimburse us for time spent by staff. So if I'm spending time on it, or our planner will be the assistant planner on it, she's going to be closely involved in this, because as we move forward, we want to get her the experience so ultimately she can do some of this work. You know, if our public works director, if our police chief, anybody who has to work on this particular project, those costs get billed to the applicant as well.
So this kind of defies that notion, if it seems too good to be true.
This is going along with the fact that we have always told the council that we're going for 100% cost recovery.
That was good.
I can say to it, we've done this in other cities that I represent. They've had senior planners just based on workload in those circumstances, and there's been situations where if it didn't work out, the council had the ability to, well, under the direction of the city manager, quickly get out of that arrangement, and it's happened before. So there's checks and balances.
I mean, it almost seems foolish that we wouldn't do it. I mean, they want to pay this guy $140 an hour to work for them, for us. It doesn't cost us anything.
It's work for us, for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what I meant.
Have they really researched this one?
Oh yeah, they
I'm kidding.
Well, obviously they stand to make a lot of money in some
yes.
projects.
Oh,
So.
yeah.
But here's the other thing is, this process of annexation is going to take 12 to 18 months minimum. I mean, you're not going to see an annexation this summer. It'll be in 2011 before it comes to the council. There's a lot of work that has to be done. With that being said, they understand the limited staff that we have as a community, so if it's just us, you know, we're talking 2013, 2014, it's money to them if they can get it going and at least moving it forward. They're just trying to time the market, so if the housing market comes back in 3 years, you know, they're ready to go in 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, whatever it is. They're not trying to start at that point in time. So.
Well, I think it's just another, you know, good example of you know, we're trying to plan for our city's future, and seems to me there's not much more discussion. But anybody else have any questions? Someone like to make a motion, bring back to council for direction?
I so move that they authorize the city manager to execute a contract with George Osner, AICP, for planning services.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Carry on. Okay, we'll move to item 11. Items from District 5 Supervisor Jim DeMartini.
Good evening again, Mayor Kate and council members. I just wanted to say a little bit more about the healthcare task force, and you know, tonight my presentation was on the calendar, which I'm going around to the school boards and just thanking them for it, and the cities for their cooperation. Our next meeting is in Patterson on February 4th. As I said, I've been going around to the different groups and talking about this task force, because it is kind of a unique model of business, education, and government trying to accomplish a goal. And it is an organization that goes across many jurisdictional lines, healthcare districts, school districts, cities, cross-county lines. And so this makes it a very unique regional model. And we always talk about working regionally, but it's very seldom ever accomplished. And this has been one of the more successful ones I can think of, especially in this area, where we take in a couple of counties, cities, and healthcare districts, plus got the business community involved and hospitals and healthcare professionals. Last week I do a PowerPoint explaining the history of it and why we started. And Kaiser had a representative there and was listening to us. Of course, they were interested because Doctors Hospital and Emmanuel was there as part of our group. And so they've expressed an interest in coming to our next meeting and joining the group also. That would make all the major hospitals in the county then would be participating in this task force. That was really a great accomplishment. And you just have to go around and tell people what we're doing. And I was asked to give the talk because it was a regional model. And so the group that I was talking to had an interest in that. So it just happened to be that Kaiser was there. And Kaiser is significant in that any people that have, or Bay Area commuters that work over there, that's where Kaiser is really strong in the Bay Area. And so employers that do provide insurance in the Bay Area are more likely to be Kaiser than anything else. So they have probably, a quarter of the population over here that has health insurance that uses Kaiser. So that would be a big segment of the population. That'd be a great asset to our group. Also, I could say that I didn't bring it tonight, but we have an activity wheel. And as this group has got some legs under it and now has done different projects, we have something for every month, whether it's, exercising or the West Side Walks and, the Biggest Loser weight contest again, and then the calendar and other things that we're trying to do, as we, try and get hours extended and specialists in and have grants for equipment and the other things that, that we're trying to do. But we do have a calendar now, kind of an activity wheel, really is what it is. And so we're an active group year-round. Our strategic plan that we did just this, it's been almost a year ago now in Gustine. It's kind of laid out kind of a framework for where we hope to go in the future. So things are going pretty well there. As I say, the next meeting will be February 4th in Patterson. Okay, and that's, I have got nothing to say about the Oristimba Flood Control Project. It's a project that just kind of goes and stops and goes and stops, and I haven't heard anything for a while. And unfortunately, I think it's another dry year, so maybe you kind of dodged the bullet this year. But this has been a very slow-going process. Now, I don't know, Mayor, if you've heard anything in the last month, because I have heard nothing. I've received nothing in the mail or email or phone calls or anything.
We're having another meeting tomorrow, a local group, the farmers, CCID, Flood Control District, here in our chambers at 2:30 tomorrow. This was just put together by the city manager because we had gotten some direction or some information from DD and a few other people up in Sacramento that we all make sure that we get the Flood Control District, all the farmers, get everybody on the same page with us because we're inching closer actually. And I had gotten did David Jones call you today?
He called, but we didn't touch base.
Okay, well, he called me, and I didn't get a chance. He left me a message that he had gotten some word from Sacramento, and I'm not exactly sure what came out, but he sounded pretty excited. We've got some good news coming out of Sacramento, so hopefully he'll share that with this group tomorrow. So 2:30 here tomorrow.
Okay, well, that's not a lot of notice, but
yeah, well,
if I could, I don't know why I'm not in the email list or loop or something on
Jim,
this.
what happened is I actually had spoke with it was through a series of emails. Since we're starting to get a little bit of movement, getting a little bit closer, that it was a good thing because we got under the WARDA in DC, and it was important that we make sure that the flood control district and all the farmers, everybody's kind of on the same page with what the group wanted and the direction we were going to go, because it would made no sense if we wanted to go forward and all the farmers in flood control district didn't agree with the levy and all that kind of stuff.
The last meeting I went to in Sacramento,
yeah,
it was, I thought, pretty productive, and they had some.
So I asked Michael to set up a meeting, a local meeting, and came up with the date was tomorrow. And I just got the email a couple of days ago, and that we had set the date. And I apologize. We'll make sure that Jim gets on our email list.
Jim, I apologize. I accept responsibility. I got David Jones on their board, and in my mind, I automatically assume that, supervisor gets contacted through county
Normally
staff.
you'd think that, but I'll run him down tomorrow and talk to him.
Yeah.
Get on
Dave-
that list.
we're not trying to point the finger, but Dave and Matt will be here, so maybe.
I just talked to Machado today about our signal project on Las Palmas. He didn't say anything about it.
Well,
I have another. I just checked my schedule. I've got a meeting at 2:00 with our retirement system board, where we're making some changes in policy, which we have really significant problems on the Stan Sarah retirement board, and we have to make some policy changes concerning benefits and excess earnings. I'm going to have to go to that because of the $400 million loss that we took last year, so we just have to make some changes, and it's a really important meeting.
And Jim, while you're here, I sent you an email regarding the signage up on I-5. Did you get that?
Yeah, I got that.
And I sent it to Mr. Chinnerden, or what, from
the guy from
District 10.
Caltrans.
Yeah, Caltrans. And I hadn't noticed it. If anybody hasn't noticed, that signage has changed up on I-5.
Yes.
It doesn't say Newman anymore.
Yeah, I know. I saw
The
that.
last says Star Road.
Yeah.
Last night at 12 o'clock.
What it
I
actually
couldn't-
says is about 6 or 7 miles north, and I haven't gone to the south to see what it said. It says Newman ahead.
Yeah, it's
and
4
then when you
miles.
get up closer, then it says, I think it says Stir Road 1 mile.
It's Stir Road or
Then it
something.
says exit 233.
That's it.
Yeah, doesn't say Newman.
So my concern was, and I sent email to the state as well as yourself and forward a copy to Michael. I had some concerns with the fact that the signage doesn't clearly indicate where Newman is, and I thought it could have an effect on our local businesses if people were looking for Newman. And consequently, and to prove my point, last weekend was Rose Bowl. Was it last weekend? I guess. 2 weekends ago. I happened to, on a Friday, I stopped at local Subway to get my coffee, and lo and behold, there was a group of Oregon Duck supporters in there. I said, "What are you doing in Newman?" And they got off the road in the wrong location and came to Newman and said, and the guy said, I just gone through I-5, like a couple weeks ago. I never saw a sign that said Newman. I didn't know Newman existed here. And it kind of went along with my thought process when I went up to I-5 and I saw that Newman was not clearly identified on the exit anymore. So that's why I sent that to you. Hopefully, and I haven't heard anything from the District 10 supervisor for Caltrans.
Yeah, maybe I'll check with Vince Harris and see that he's aware of it too.
Yeah, and I'll figure what the next StanCog meeting I would.
StanCog now meets on the third
That's right.
Wednesday rather than the second.
So I figured if he didn't email me by then, I would have a piece of him then and see what he has to say.
He might email you. StanCog is traditionally very slow about doing anything.
Yeah.
They can get it done if you just keep after them.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I'm gonna keep after them.
They're not known for their speed. What there used to be a sign that said Newman. Why was it taken down?
Yeah.
Why was it taken down?
I don't know. That doesn't
Replaced
really
with
make
it says Star Road. I only saw parts of last night coming by there.
I just say we go out there and put up a sign.
Well, I kind of think we have our own sign we go up and put up out there.
Well,
How about coming
Caltrans
north,
job,
guys?
so.
Anything from Gustine?
Yes, it's.
I'll be sure.
If
If you're coming from the south, it says Newman exit 1 mile.
Oh, it does come in north.
It used to say that. Going the other way, it used to say
Yeah.
Newman exit
Right.
1 mile.
Yeah, because
It used to say it both ways.
Right.
Now it only says it from the
Well,
south.
now
Just the one
southbound
goes
does not
going
say
north.
We're also working on that at a staff level.
Okay.
Okay, you followed it up, and then
Okay.
Public Works Director and I have been trying to coordinate at
Yeah,
a
well, I'll be
staff
sure that
level. Trying to
StanCog's
take it to
executive director is aware of it.
Thank you, Jim, and we'll make sure that you get on our email list.
Yeah,
I
hit me on the
apologize.
list
Yeah.
because
Yeah. I think I saw Michael diligently writing something down over there, but.
He says, I made a mistake.
Just what you need, another meeting.
Well, I have to have several meetings a day to.
Just to make you feel good. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Anything else, Jim?
No.
Thank you so much. All right, appreciate it. All righty. City manager and staff.
Anyway, we weren't having any food, so we didn't think the supervisor was going to show up.
Oh, nice.
A couple announcements. Stanislaus County Health Services Agency will have an H1n1 Clinic at the FDES Hall on Tuesday, January 26th from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. So that's going to occur in our community. Just a reminder, and we usually do this we did at the first meeting in January in 2009, but City Council committee assignments, and I know Mayor, it's a 2-year cycle. We always do it on a 2-year cycle to correspond with the election. So we assume that everybody's on the same committees for another year for whatever committees you were assigned to at the beginning of January. I think we attached that to the
I didn't. I just gave it to you, actually.
So we can get you get you a copy of your assignments out again in case you don't recall what those are. Just a reminder, January 18th is Martin Luther King Day. The city offices will be closed. That day also corresponds with our 2-on-2 meeting with the school board, so I'm asking Dr. Foss if he just wants to try to reschedule for this month, or if we just want to skip over to February. I'll get back to Councilmember Kelly and Mayor Pro Tem on that one. Horse Dimmick Creek, the voicemail I got from David Jones was he made contact with DWR, and a lot of the conversation right now, who's going to be the lead local agency. The county has indicated it's not going to be them. They've expended lots of time and funds on this project already. They're ready to step back and no longer be the lead agency. I don't know that our community and the drainage district have the wherewithal to do a large project like that. So hopefully DWR, Department of Water Resources, will step up to the bat and be the lead local agency on that. So, which leads us to tomorrow's meeting, Jim, will be a lot about the local preferred project. Again, trying to get everybody on board. I have a concern as city manager that some of the price tags that's assigned to this local preferred right now would not be able to get done because it would require a measure to pass throughout the community and essentially add to people's property taxes a couple $100s to benefit those who are in the flood zone. So I don't know in this current economy if that flies. So we need to really look at what the local preferred is and try to get control of the cost. As well as, Jim, the meeting we went to in Sacramento, we were all giddy and, oh, what a great meeting. We went back to the next meeting and we were kind of deflated because, it's a 100-year design that they're willing to pay for, but it's not a FEMA 100-year with the freeboard and there's a lot of technical engineer talk that I was subjected to. And, and in the end, I came out that, and we're a big loser on this. We got to raise their bar in order to get our cost control. So we still got a long way to go on that. The whole community should owes a big thanks to Supervisor Newman. He's really stayed on this project a long time, and hopefully we can see it through and make it work. Just two last things. EECBG, which is Energy Efficiency Community Block Grant Program. I think we made you aware of this probably a couple months ago, where we worked with another outside agency and they were going to be the administrator of our grant fund. It's about $60,000. We just completed our energy audit. PG&E did that for us at no charge. So they made some recommendations on how we can make our buildings and facilities more energy efficient. So our application, I believe, will be going in with our to get our funds allotted to us. And that probably will be going in this week. And then lastly, Parks and Recs Commission meets on Thursday. I know the baseball board will be there to do a presentation to them. And you got a copy of the agenda. So with that, I can answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of Michael?
I have one, Michael. During the holiday break, we closed down City Hall, and I was just wondering if you had any feedback from the general public. I mean, I'm sure that some people were concerned, but did you hear anything from them at all?
We didn't.
Okay.
We didn't. I think the predominance of the community understands the economic climate we're in.
Yeah.
And we try to get the word out a long time in advance. And if there, we had on-call people. If
Yeah.
there were emergencies, we were able to get to those. So,
Worked pretty good then.
yeah, we did not have any problems. We did have some glitches though. As you know, we had the power went out from Crow's Landing to SD. So
We won't hold that against you.
Yeah, there were some power outages. So we had our phone systems were a little screwed up. Excuse me, and our computer network, but we got that all back online. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only question I had.
Real quick question, Mike. The new shelter that we have over at the park, Lincoln Park, is it possible, have we looked into grants for that for solar energy? Or is it too shaded in that area?
Yeah, there's a lot of trees in that area. I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the Pioneer Park?
Pioneer Park, yeah.
I don't know that would necessarily qualify. And you can't I don't believe you can use these EECBG funds for solar power.
Gotcha.
These are more energy efficiency, not
Well, no,
energy
they wouldn't
generation.
want, PG&E wouldn't want you using that.
But
But I'm just
but-
curious on others, that anything that we do, I would hope that we would look, if you can put that in the back of your minds, that definitely, look into or think about solar panel. I would think that, hopefully, that they're pushing that today.
Potentially a good location would be our sewer plant.
Good.
We use a lot of energy out there.
Yeah.
Potentially could be it. So, right now you're not really generating much solar power. So you have to look at the cost benefit analysis, and it definitely takes some grant funding.
Oh, no, grant, I'm talking grants, totally. Yeah.
But most of what you're going to see is we're trying to, with this EECBG money, we're trying to get that targeted towards areas that use general fund monies.
Gotcha.
Because if you have energy efficiency, you're saving money, and hopefully we're saving general fund money. So street lights might be an issue, building lights, energy efficiency on our buildings, and hopefully lower our PG&E costs and those energy costs. So that's the tack that we're taking. That's is really how the EECBG is written.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions, Mike? Thank you. Okay, moving on to staff. Anybody like to jump up first?
I thought Julie's going to do her.
Yeah. Chief?
The mayor, just before
Yes.
the chief gets started here. So I've talked to each of my department heads, and Adam's going to go first today. Each of our department heads is going to kind of give you a overview of how 2009 went, some of the accomplishments that happened over the 2009 year, and then also talk a little bit about what their goals are for 2010. So it's kind of gives you, okay, what we should be reporting to you what we were able to do in 2009. So this is our police department presentation on it.
Chief, you even have less people to speak to, but you know what? I'm sure everybody's interested in this riveting report, so please have at it.
Jim's here. And
Jim's still here.
Jim has no place to go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Apologize for the late hour ago. As quickly as you can, but it's important information, and we want to get to you, as the city manager indicated, the things that what we did for 2009 on your behalf and on behalf of the community, and as well as some of the challenges we encountered as well. So this will be our annual report for the entire year, and we're going to talk obviously just a little bit about the department. Some things you may know, but obviously for folks that may watch us at home or on the website or whatever, or the substantial crowd tonight, then we're going to also talk about our statistics and compare those a little bit to 08, talk about our budget issues and some of the goals that we hope to accomplish in 2010, as well as over the next 3 to 5 years, some things to plant in the back of your minds that will be issues facing the department as well. Most of this you probably know, but we are a full-service, independent police department. Of course, we're not a contract agency. Sometimes there are members of the community that mistake us for a contract with the sheriff's department. We have 16 and a half total paid employees. total employees, yes, and 3.5 of those are non-sworn or supporting staff, records clerks, evidence clerk, the community service officer. And we have 3 sworn reserves and 5 citizen volunteers. That group there is unpaid. And then the 13 sworn officers consist of myself, the 2 sergeants, and the remaining 10 officers. At any point you have a question, of course, you just stop me. We'll address it. Our current budget that you adopted earlier this year for 09-010 was about $1.8 million. As you can see, just about 80% of that is non-discretionary. It's tied up mostly in personnel cost. But it is, we're very pleased that we were able to make a reduction from 08-09 of $200,000 off of our budget without a reduction in service. So we're very aggressive with that and trying to reduce those general fund expenses. And a lot of that we talked about in last year's presentation, where we found inherited some bad contracts, some things we didn't need to be spending money on, these types of things. So we were able to accomplish that without a reduction in service, and actually services is gone up this year. We do have a fleet of 11 vehicles, 7 of which are marked patrol vehicles. 2 of course, are the Tahoes from the K-9 program, CSO truck. We have 1 natural gas vehicle that the volunteers use or for errands to Modesto, paperwork, things like that, and the 2 unmarked vehicles as well. Some of the things we did in 2009, obviously we did quite a bit, but these are more of the significant accomplishments, or the remote, or at least more visible for the community or for you or the city staff. The Boy Scout Public Safety Day was a big hit with the community, the kids in particular. We were able to implement a new ID card system, not only in the police department, but we pushed that out through the city manager's direction to all city employees now have ID cards, something that we did not have. It had sort of fallen off over the years. Very professional looking, modern credit card style ID cards. And in the police department, they even have the barcode on the back, because what I told you about last year, we have a new automated report system. So for property and evidence, everything is barcoded, and we can check evidence out with that, so everything is top of the line there. Supervisor manual for our supervisors, guiding them on personnel issues or other issues they may encounter. You adopted a number of cost recovery ordinances throughout the year to try to recover some of the costs of staff. The animal clinics, the first one was had a few hiccups, but the second one went very smooth, and we have a tremendous success rate in licensing and compliance in the city that we're proud of. Most of our citizens comply with that, and the clinics provide that opportunity. The volunteer program grew a little bit, not as much as I would like to have seen, and we did expand their duties a little bit more. We hope to do that in 2010 to utilize some of that the volunteer work instead of utilizing paid staff for that. Probably our biggest achievement of the year was the receipt of the federal grant for the POP Officer Borden there on the bicycle for our business community. And as we all know, we've improved the quality of life, we think, in the business district, and we hear that routinely from customers and business owners as well. Additionally, a mobile life scan. Each of the cars now have a handheld device in the car. If someone doesn't have ID, they can quickly put a thumb on it, and a photograph and their name will appear. So that addresses a lot of issues in the field. We were able to accomplish that. In 2009, we hired a new CSO officers, doing well. We had the Citizens Academy we provided to our community that we received a positive feedback on that as well. We hope to do another one in the spring. The Administrative Citation Program that you approved a number of months ago, August or so, somewhere around there, is proving to be effective and popular. A high compliance rate with folks paying those. I think my only concern on that right now is that it's getting so popular and other communities are reaching out to us. It won't be long probably before California puts the kibosh on that. Yeah. So we'll try to enjoy it as long as we can, but we're getting positive feedback from the residents. The officers are working well with it, and for whatever reason, people tend to pay those. I think that, and I hear the comments from my office, as the counter, of course, is close, that I did it, but I don't mind paying it because I know the money's staying here in Newman. So.
Who said
That's
that?
amazing.
I hear people say
Honest
it.
to God.
They thank us when
Well,
we write
yeah,
our
that
tickets.
doesn't go on the record.
The mayor could tell you. But people say thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Chief,
Yes.
have you heard any negatives to that?
I have not personally. I read one on the internet at a certain website that I won't advertise, but and I don't even know that it was negative. It was a bit convoluted, and ultimately it seemed that it turned around in our favor.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite know how to make heads or tails of that comment, but I have not personally, or the department. No one has complained to me.
I couldn't see where there would be, but
Yeah.
most people
are
never
happy.
never cease to amaze me. So anyway,
There's advice, Chief. Stay off that website.
It's for purely intelligence purposes only.
Is it possible to charge people writing tickets to people from Modesto twice as much? Since we're losing that sales tax?
Interesting though, there is a, England is now attributing, that you probably saw this in the paper as well, traffic fines and associating it to people's income. Because they're finding that people that have high income and are fairly affluent, that $100 speeding ticket, it's the cost of doing business. I could just speed anytime I want. So they're now attaching the fines based on your income. So we'll see if that makes it across the pond.
I wouldn't get much of a fine at all.
Let's see. This interesting acronym here, COOP-COG, it was a county-wide initiative. Most of the cities participated. We did as well, and it's a continuity of government plan. It complements our emergency operations plan. So we adopted that for the first time. It's basically a playbook. If the disaster happens in the city, how do we keep the city running? Not necessarily how to handle the flood, but how do we pay our employees still? How do we keep city operations going? That type of thing. So it's sort of a playbook to keep the city operating. And we've made vast improvements in 2009 in becoming paperless. More green, reducing costs. We're not printing reports as often, multiple copies. And we're very close to, not that we'll ever really be 100% paperless, just because some of the documents we have to do, but we're just about as close as we can be. And compared to where we were in 08 and 07, we were going through lots and lots of paper. But our new report systems improved that. Good success with grants this year, a total of about $300,000. Of course, paying for one officer, which is the biggest issue, not able to buy a few computers, and perform some DUI enforcement and seatbelt enforcement, which offsets the amount that you appropriated for overtime. So we've basically recovered our overtime costs for the year with the general fund as well.
Excellent.
Some of the significant cases, obviously there were a number of cases, and of course many in the community will feel maybe if their case wasn't on there, not that it wasn't significant to us, but these are some of the more, I guess, that got the most media attention. Of course, the tragedy of the downtown arson, that case is still pending. At least the adult defendant, his next scheduled court appearance is in March, so there's no resolution on that. Although the juvenile offender, frankly, just got nothing. And outside of our control, of course, that's the court system dealt with that. We had the unfortunate gang-related shooting that occurred in the fall weekend. That we're happy to report everyone is in custody on that. That's of course still pending through the court as well. We had a commercial burglary that resulted in our first canine apprehension with our good friend Gunner there, who's on the slide with us. He begged to be on there, so we accommodated that. And so we're happy with that. We all put a lot of time and energy into the canine program to finally get a successful apprehension. The bad guy wasn't so happy about it, but we were. And shortly thereafter, I think within 2 weeks or so, another individual apparently didn't get the word that Gunner had figured out what to do, and an auto theft suspect, one of our community members, had their car stolen, a short pursuit and foot chase, and that resulted in Gunner making that arrest as well. Then we, as you remember, in the summer, early summer, late spring, we had a pretty significant rash of graffiti that was just about everywhere. And one of our officers was able to break that case open and make multiple arrests, and then we benefited from months of just about hardly any graffiti, and it's picked up just a little bit, but that arrest had captured a person that had basically gone unchecked for quite a while. So that was a big deal for us, obviously. It's more of a nuisance crime. I mean, it just bothers us, but to make that arrest was a big deal. And then at the end of the year, although the crime did not occur in Newman, obviously it's our neighbor. He was a Newman resident and could just as easily victimize one of our residents. And we were happy to help Gustine and make that bank robbery arrest here in the city. And through the course of the year, we were able to take 6 firearms off of bad guys. So that's not a huge number, but for a community our size, we're proud of that number. Those were from people that did not need to possess firearms. Things that continue throughout 2-9 that were happening in 08 as well. We still believe morale is high. People are happy to work here. We no longer suffer from retention and recruitment issues that those of you who've been on the council for a while have probably heard a lot about and had reports and studies and why that's happening. And we lost no officers in 09 and gained 1, as you know, through the grant. Professionalism remains high. We continue to receive positive comments on that. Productivity, visibility is all improved, continues to improve as it did in 08. Our image is, we believe, is currently positive and has been for quite a while. And we have developed a lot of partnerships throughout the county and in the city. And through some of our policy efforts, our risk management's improved as well. Some of our crime data, unfortunately, the numbers are up a little bit, but they're so close that essentially to me it appears just about status quo. Of course we would love to see a tremendous increase, but actually that one's shaking on us up there. But robberies are reduced a little bit. Assaults are the most concerning to me. I think that's a real increase, where the others I think are basically the same. There's not much to it there. Assaults would be, that includes everything, simple assault, aggravated assault, the shooting would be there, and everything from just slapping your neighbor would be included.
Domestic too would be in that?
Yes, most domestics would be there if it resulted in some physical violence. So, and that could account for some of it as well. Burglaries are essentially the same. I was worried that they were going to come out much higher, but they balanced out about the same. And larceny is basically your petty theft type things, opportunity crimes. Your water hose is left out in the front yard and someone stole it, or you left your car unlocked and someone stole your stereo, or those kinds of things. And that went up a little bit. Motor vehicle theft is up as well. There was one individual that was responsible for probably at least a quarter of those, maybe a third, and he's now incarcerated. So hopefully that number will go back down.
Chief, the rape, I don't remember anything on that.
Those typically aren't reported out. Obviously, they're confidential crimes,
Okay.
and the policy of our local paper is they don't publicize. So.
Were we able to?
That actually, the case was unfounded.
Oh, Jesus.
It was a.
Why even put it up there then?
Well, we have to. Unfortunately, you got to report it to the UCR, but then it's coded as unfounded. It was a teenage girl who just didn't come home when she was supposed to, and she made that up.
Oh wow.
Some more localized things. These are internal numbers. We don't report these out to the FBI or to the state or anyone. You can see calls for service are up as we've been seeing throughout the year. A little over 1,000 more police incidents this year, and some of that is, as you probably, if you've been to any other events where I talk about this, it's a little bit on us because we've pushed so much for people to call us. Others it's just because it's busy out there. There's a lot of stuff happening. Traffic citations are up. Parking citations about the same. You see the tows did go up in 09, and that didn't make. Must have sent Mike the wrong one still, even after 2 times.
I was say update it to the second
one. I got a couple
one.
blanks there. Arrest. I don't remember the specific number, but it actually remained about the same. I apologize for not having those numbers there, but it was essentially within a few numbers of the same. We did have 3 internal affairs investigations, all of which I wish it was 0, but the good thing out of that is they were all generated internally, not from the community. So that means the number of formal complaints was 0 for 2009, which is a tremendous number. Not many departments can say that. We did have 3 collisions in 09. 2 of them were not at fault, and 1 we were. Only 7 uses of forces, and this is a number that is used in the industry to compare back to the 9,474 police events. And then you add in the citations and those arrests, and you do that analysis and only use force 7 times. That's unheard of. One, it's either we got an extremely compliant community, or we have some very patient and well-trained officers. So we can. The answer is probably a little bit of both, but that's most departments would love to have that number. 2 vehicle pursuits and then 10 formal accommodations. Revenue was projected at $110,850 for 09-010 that the department would generate. This is just through fines and fees. This is not any of the grants. And so far you can see that 46,710 is reported. Now, not all of second quarter is included there. Not everything made it in. But we're just about on target, maybe a little bit low, but keeping in mind not everything is reported. 2009, this is the same slide that you saw last year, and then I just added the blue to update you. We told you these were our goals, and I wanted to let you know what we accomplished, what we did not. We wanted to increase staffing in 09, and we were able to do that. We hired 1 officer. We wanted to formalize a uniform manual to make sure that we don't fall back to where we were, that sort of mismatched and everybody's wearing whatever they want. And that is just about done. It's proved to be a little more cumbersome to get everybody on the same page than we anticipated, but it's in the final stages. We wanted an OTS grant that Councilmember Kelly was very aggressive about as well. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get that motor officer, but we did get the DUI portion of it and the seatbelt portion. We wanted to do some cost recovery ordinances. Of course, you passed those. We did that. We did not get through a formal strategic plan, although the last slide is, the 30-second version of what would turn out to be a much more detailed book, and we'll get to that shortly. We're doing our television show online, which continues bi-monthly. That's in partnership with Patterson, and we participate with the index and the articles, trying to educate and update our community. We wanted to expand the volunteer program. We did that. We had the Citizens Academy. We hired some more folks. We did the same through the Explorer program. We wanted to implement a franchise tow agreement. We're a couple months late, but as you know, we're going to be making that happen here shortly. Massage ordinance, we wanted to get that in. We didn't have any regulation, although state law passed that took care of that for us. Administrative citations, we were able to accomplish that, as you know. And the EOP is in the county, stands for final approval, and we're close on that. And the firearm replacement we had to put off because of funds. Things we want to do for 10, obviously we want to reduce the overall crime. We're concerned that it's a little up or status quo, so we want to try to bring that down as best we can. Any of the remaining 2009 goals, of course, we want to take care of those. We want to, at this point, we recognize in the economy situation, everybody knows I couldn't ask you for more officers, there's just no money, but we certainly don't want to lose any, so obviously our goal in 2010 is to maintain the current staffing we have. And we continue working on improving efficiency. Made tremendous strides there to talk about the paperless and the computers in the cars and all these types of things. Anything we can do to reduce staff time to keep the officers in the field as much as possible. Another process that just came up, it's every 5 years, that we'll be working on for about the next 4 or 5 months, is the local hazard mitigation plan that the federal government requires to renew every 5 years. We're doing that now through county OES as well. And we hope to get the move to sort of phase 2 of the dogs and get them into certified for narcotics for 2010 as well. Try and move quick, running out of. Okay, and this is essentially a one-slide strategic plan here, but obviously it doesn't include things of how we're going to pay for it. But these are just things for you to sort of put in your back pocket and know that these are issues facing the department over the next few years. We obviously will need to continue to grow the department as the population grows or stays at the same. If we lose people, we'll want to replace those. We'd love to obviously and need to have a supervisor on duty 24/7 and 2 officers on duty at all times. Although we're very close to accomplishing that through the schedule modifications that we've talked about and told you about before. Obviously, we don't want to outline the days and the times that we don't have that for the bad guys that may be watching, but we are very close to that. We're just probably 1 officer away from having 2 officers on duty just about at all times. And we want to, obviously, that's the purpose of that is officer safety and community safety. Budget training continues to be a problem, and the state continues to make mandates that obviously we have to pay for. They do reimburse to some extent, so we want to make sure we don't fall behind on training. Currently, everyone is up to date again and in compliance with post, and we want to keep that. And then things to consider, obviously future equipment, major purchases will be vehicles, although we're probably fine for the next year or so. The mobile computers will need to be replaced at some point, and the desktops, as you know, you approved when I first arrived, we bought all new desktops. Those will are on a 4-year cycle with HP, I believe, is who we're with. Lastly, facility. The building is, the square footage is, I think, more than sufficient for the next 10 or more, 20 years. It's just it's a design problem. It's just because it's been so many different things and cut up so many different ways. The footprint is more than enough. Just obviously, when the economy returns or funding is somehow found in the future, we think the location's fantastic. The footprint is great. It just needs to be gutted and modernly organized into a modern police department. So that would be the facility, and obviously succession planning remains important as we try to mentor and continue to mentor future department leaders. With that, it was very quickly, we did a lot of stuff, but we just did all of 09 in 10 or 15 minutes, so but I'd be happy to answer any questions or that you may have.
Questions of the chief?
Just one real quick one. Is there anything the officers need right now for their safety that we haven't supplied? Vests, whatever else is out there?
Not for safety, obviously. I mean, there's always things we want, but absolutely necessity, no. Vest is a good point. Actually, that would be something else. We had fallen behind in that as well in 08 and 09. We are now caught back up, and we have a tickler file and on cycle to appropriately replace those. And that's through grant funds as well. So
excellent. Thank you, Chief.
Any other questions for the chief?
I got a question, Chief. It's not on your report because it was a great report. We have a downtown nightclub, and I'd just like to know how that's affected the police department.
The nightclub does not appear to. It has not impacted the police department. I guess is the short answer.
Okay.
It generally is pretty slow. Holidays, Fall Festival weekend, New Year's Eve, those types of things have when it is busy, it has caused some police response, but 95% of the time it's just about empty.
Great. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you, Chief. Great report.
Thank you.
Garner, Stephanie? Really? Wow. Okay. Everyone must want to go home.
Garner has nothing? Can I ask you a quick question? Yeah. Downtown Merced and 33, where our great Caltrans came through and tore up our roads and everything. I don't know if you've noticed how much of a chuck hole there is on that one side of the street. It would be on the east side. And I was just wondering, would Caltrans be responsible for paving those? Because it looks pretty nasty right there. I don't know if you've driven around that corner there, but it's a pretty good chuck hole right now. And of course, with further rains.
We made contact with Caltrans. They're actually their contractor. They were supposed to have been out today, but I drove by before the council meeting and noticed that it would be the east side of the road right there on Merced. They didn't fix that one, but they did some repairs just to get to that one. Yeah. So our public works supervisor is in touch with the contractor. It's Knife River Construction. Okay. We'll make sure. I asked him to look at every intersection because as the rains hit, that's what causes that stuff to pop out. It's not from driving over it, but when the moisture gets in there, you drive over it, separates the cutback. So they're supposed to get in there and put some cutback in there, but we'll follow up with that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions, Garner?
I can give you a quick update, I guess, for Public Works. We did have some minor graffiti over the holidays. Wasn't very much. We quickly took care of that. Hill Park is progressing pretty quickly. little bit of rain delays this week because of the weather where they're not able to get anything, but all the sprinklers have been installed. The next phase are going to be coming in, doing some soil amendments and putting up this play structures and things of that nature, with the goal of getting some hydro seeding going on in there probably by mid-February. And that's moving along, progressing pretty quickly. And next week you'll hear a presentation on the Public Works Department.
Great.
Our next council meeting.
Next week. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Garner.
Thank you.
Councilman Kelly.
This is really for the Parks and Rec. When I was out the East Coast, I was out there for 3 weeks, and where I walked in my daughter's neighborhood, there's a school there, and I know Virginia Beach is a lot bigger than we are, but they have a ton of programs for the kids, and I just happened to notice. I mean, it was colder than God. We think it's cold here. It was cold, but what they're doing, they're having indoor soccer for kids from 4 to 10. And I mean, what I'm thinking, I thought to myself, darn, I mean, that would be a great idea. And then Saturday mornings, and I know it costs money, but I mean, they're doing it there. What do they have that we don't?
Money.
Well, it could be, yes. But
and staffing. I mean, we expended a lot of staff time getting everything prepared for basketball.
Oh, I know.
Getting all that done,
But
so.
I'm just saying that that's in a school. That's a small school, but they might even have a gym. Because their schools are a lot bigger than ours, but
I think
just thoughts,
That's mainly the main thing. Maybe we can work and I'll check with the school district. Maybe we can partner on something for next year in the winter months. I mean, indoor soccer. Soccer's a big sport around here. So
Oh, it is.
Maybe that's something that could in the future could work.
We don't even, in all honesty, we don't even need it inside compared to there at like 20 degrees, and you have a little kid 4 years old running around outside. Ain't going to happen. Here it's not 50 degrees and we're complaining. So anyway, that's all I got. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Candia?
Nothing.
Mr. Martina?
I have one more thing. Michael, it might be for you, it might be for the chief, I'm not sure. Probably community service officer. See the southeast corner, right here, Kernan 33? They're using it as a area to store their almost dead equipment that they're not currently using. And I don't know why they're putting it right in that corner, but to me it's a big eyesore. It seems like they could put it in the back.
I didn't catch what it is.
It's just
DeMari Brothers.
It's just equipment.
From the construction phone?
No.
DeMari.
From DeMari.
Bob, I got it.
Yeah, it looks pretty bad if you go out there and take a look at it. It looks like there's more accumulating every day. So it looks like that's going to be their junkyard or whatever.
We'll touch bases with them and talk to him Tom about what's going on out there. And make sure that he understands that this is not I mean, if he's talking, this is a short-term project for him,
well, yeah,
we can work with him, but it's not going to be a long-term project. So we'll talk. We'll reach out to Tom and DeMari Brothers.
Sorry to be such a pain, but
No worries.
it's an eyesore.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
I'm going to digress and just kind of build on what Bob said was, as we get the plaza going, our funding's up to $2.2 million, what we're going to get from ERA. Once we complete that, we've done a lot in our downtown. You're going to see staff with, council concurrent. We're going to make a pitch to you to start focusing our attention on the highway district. If you're driving through Newman, it looks a lot different than if you're in the downtown.
Yeah.
We need to now figure out and start planning for taking those downtown improvements and putting them onto the highway, making them match. I mean, your vision of Newman on the highway is much different than your vision of Newman on the downtown. And that starts way out at our sign, where you come in from the north side, southbound, and there's no sidewalks, there's no curb and gutter. These are things that we're going to start planning as your staff. So, but we want to take care of the plaza and then focus on that. And that's all part of economic development and all the rest that goes along. So.
Thank you.
Okay, I just have a couple items, but I'm somewhat reluctant to even mention them because I'm referring back to the chief and his our local paper, and it's not. I want everybody to know it's not for self-serving purposes, and I don't take credit for nothing. But Bob, would you speak on the toy drive and the flu clothes at the West Side Theater this year for the Toys for Tots program?
You'd like to make a comment?
Yeah, no, would you just talk about the how that all came about?
Well, of course, the Women's League got involved in this years ago, I guess, with the Salvation Army. Salvation Army was actually providing food and, I guess, presents, not presents, but food to people of need. And the Women's League, and I don't know a lot about it, but the Women's League got involved for Toys for Tots, which is a big program. And annually, they gather all the food and the toys, and they spend about a good amount of time actually wrapping these presents and putting all the food in the bags. And a lot of you have been involved in it. Nick's been involved in it, and Michael, and it's something that's really big and very important to the community. And it's like once you get involved with a program like this, you really feel good that you're at least at Christmas time. You're making a difference in a lot of people's lives. So it's a very positive thing, and there's a lot of people out there, a lot of volunteers that participate in this, and thank God they do, because there's people that would never have a Christmas. And it gives you a good feeling. The thing is, it's very hard if you go out and you see these people and how needed and how much need they're in, and so appreciative of what we've tried to do for them. And so often you go into a house and there's a mother with 2 or 3 children, and she's got tears in her eyes, and she's overwhelmed because she knows that those children would not have a Christmas without this program, Toys for Tots of the Salvation Army, the Women's League. So it's a great program, and like I say, a lot of you are involved in it also. So, but anyway, thank God for the program.
Yeah, and the reason why I mention that is because there's several people in the community. I mean, Patty Navoa and Bob, or Joe and Kathy Evans, who were instrumental in that program, and I just happened to mention it in a letter, and I took some grief over it because people thought I was taking credit. And I just want people to know I had nothing to do with that. I was just a small volunteer, and it wasn't self-serving by any stroke of the imagination. One of the other things that I got asked to participate in by my wife, drug over, but again, Bob speaks of how rewarding it is to help somebody else, and when you do that, especially during the Christmas season, and then when you get slammed for it, it kind of hurts. But at any rate, I got big shoulders, and people who don't know me don't know much about anything anyway. Bob, could you also speak on the time that we spent at the Salvation Army, at the mission with Bob McConnell?
Well, it's just these programs are out there for people to volunteer and help. And Bob McConnell he's one of those volunteers that, as everybody knows Bob McConnell, is always helping people and always trying to do the right thing. And he serves at Salvation Army. I don't know how often, I think maybe once a week or at least once a week. And they serve food to people that are actually at the Salvation Army and truly in need, and it just, you see these people, and of course, you feel like that could be yourself, because it's just through, they lost their job or they just don't have any income, and they're down there and they provide a meal to them, and the people can't thank you enough for what you're doing, but thank God there's programs like that. And anyway, they're always looking for volunteers, so anyone that's interested.
Just a comment on that too, guys. 90% or more of that money that you donate here in Newman stays in Newman, and that's a big thing, I think. So anybody that goes into Nob Hill and stuff at Christmas time, put money into that, because it stays here in Newman, and it's used to help Newman people. So it's a wonderful cause, and Bob is just unbelievable.
Well, I think that the point that that I got out of it's especially that time of year, it gives you personal self gratification that you've been able to do something to help somebody, and it's touching, like Bob said, when you're out with kids and families, and they are so appreciative of what you've done for them. And but there's so many people behind the scenes that do so much work. That was truly the intent of my letter, is to point out that a great job is done by a lot of people, so many that I wouldn't even begin to number or to ask or to recognize. I couldn't. There's, it was so many, but the idea was the people who organized that, such as Patty Navoa and Joe and Kathy Evans, and the hundreds of people, it was incredible. But anyway, I appreciate you sharing that about those two particular.
One comment I have, it's been several days since I helped serve, and it bothers me when I'm at home and I look around and see what I have, and I have so much, and I'm saying, and these people have nothing, and I don't think we think in terms of what we have and what they don't have, and it's just it's beyond belief as far as you don't realize that there's people out there that they don't know where their next meal's coming from. And anyway, sometimes we forget about people, and we should always try to remember.
Yeah, and it's truly the personal satisfaction and gratification you get out of helping somebody. So that's all I have to say about it. Bob?
If I may, with the council's indulgence, the only comment I would make to anyone who would criticize anyone for taking part in this program is, where are you? And I think that anyone that would show up and participate, in all of the men and women that are sitting here that have been involved, you get touched by this. And how anyone can criticize anything or anyone for participating in it is beyond my comprehension.
Well, mostly because they think it's self-serving.
Well, then they need to come out and do a little self-service. Do a little service above self.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate, but
and get that program, because my wife and a lot of other people's wives and husbands have dedicated their lives and their spare time to this project that, without their help and without the helps of folks like you, it's just not going to happen. And you've already said that, but I'm a little closer to this than most everybody, and my wife puts in more hours than people can even begin to imagine. I'm always, I'm not amazed, but I always take a little bit of satisfaction when people come that have not been involved in the program before and see what it is involved and come into our store and say, I cannot believe what you have put together here in this town. And so Newman certainly can stand up and be proud, and anybody that serves in this project can be proud of what they do, and they certainly don't do it to serve themselves. They're serving the needy of this community. And
Absolutely.
I thank you all.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn to closed session. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thanks, Jim. Days after I got back from serving, I couldn't believe, I'm looking around my house and saying, I have all this.
Deanna and I did the same thing.
Jim, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Good night.
Good night.
Take care, Jim.
Less than now.